Sebastian, Perry, Ed Reyes, Jack Weiss, and Dennis Zine. We have a quorum, and so we will begin presently, but for folks that are here, we welcome you as well as our viewers on Channel 35, which broadcasts us live and rebroadcasts in the evening. We're also available online at lacity.org, where you can catch live streaming webcasts of our council meetings or archived footage of any of our past council meetings. And you can always use your phone to call in to listen to our council meetings by calling 213-621-CITY, which is a service of the Information Technology Agency, in order to listen into council or committee meetings as well. For folks that are here that like to be heard on any of the items that are agendas are in the back. Those are always made available 72 hours in advance or 24 hours in advance for our special meeting items. Just fill out a speaker card in the back and hand it to one of the sergeants at arms. We'll make sure that you get that in the mix. We have a general public comment section of each of our meetings for items that are not on the agenda but nevertheless under the jurisdiction of the city, as well as items that are agendized for public comment on specific matters as well. We do our best to try to get as many speakers as possible. Under the State Brown Act, we're obligated to do about 10 minutes of public comment, but often we go longer than that depending on the issue. Clearly, we will be doing that today. We also have overflow room in room 350 for folks who aren't able to sit down. I know council chambers are full today because a lot of folks are here for item number 11. And if you'd like to go over, that's the Public Works room, which is just on the other side of the rotunda to the north of here on this floor. And there is an audio connection as well as a television connection over there to follow the meeting. Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll, we can begin the meeting.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruel, Han, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, West, and Zine Garcetti. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Labange moves, Mr. Reyes seconds. Without objection, those will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Cardenas moves, Mr. Parks seconds. Without objection, those will be approved. If we can run through the agenda.
Before beginning the regular agenda, Mr. President, there's a request to continue several of the items. Item number 2, a request to continue that matter for 1 week to February 4th.
Okay. Is there any objection to continuing item number 2 till the 4th of February? Seeing none, we'll continue item 2.
And also a request from Councilmember Weston to continue item number 10 for 2 weeks, and that would be February 11th.
Okay. If there's no objection, we'll continue 10 until the 11th of February. Next items, please.
Next items are items noticed for public hearings. That would be items 1 and 3 through 5 and 6. They're all building and safety reports confirming liens.
We do not have cards from the public, so we'll close the public hearings on those. Any council members wishing to call specials 1 through 6? If not, let's go ahead and please open the roll on the balance, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those items are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 7 through 13. Items 7 through 10 are ordinances, and I believe 12 will be present. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yes, let's hold those till we have 12 members. And just as a reminder, we're still waiting for Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Rosendahl, and Mr. Smith, who are late. If they will please make their way to council chambers as soon as possible.
And that would leave before council 11 through 13.
Okay. Mr. Labange calls 11 special. Any other specials, 12 and 13? 12 or 13? If not, let's go ahead and take those two up. Please open the roll on 12 and 13. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held. Items 14 through 19. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, if there's no objection to consideration, those items are before us now, 14 through 19. Any specials on those?
And Mr. President, I believe there are cards on 16 and 17.
Okay, we'll call 16 and 17 special for cards from the public. Any members wishing to call 14, 15, 18, or 19 special? If not, let's go ahead and open the roll on those. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. If we can go back to 7 through 9 now that we have 12 members for the ordinances. If nobody wishes to call those special, let's go ahead and open up the roll on 7, 8, and 9. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved as well. Next items?
Next items, Mr. President, are the closed session items 20 through 22. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yes, please. Let's hold 20 through 22 2 on the desk.
And that would take council back to public comment.
Okay? Now it's time for general public comment. I know that there's a lot of folks who are here for comment on item number 11, so just as a reminder, during general public comment, you can't talk about items that are on the regular agenda. We'll get to those when those items come up. So we have a number of cards. There's 2 minutes per speaker, and we have a timer to help people guide their words as well. And Clyde Williams is our first speaker. After that will be Lorraine Lawrence. Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Good morning. My name is Clyde Williams. I live at 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, CD14. I'm also representing the Friends of Southwest Museum Coalition, and we have a series of questions. Why hasn't the Autry project come back to the public review? Why are they hiding? When will we get to see the new sweetheart deal between the city and the Autry for the site in Griffith Park? Will Autry get CRA funding like MOCA did this morning, or will they get it via the Rexham Park's new LA Parks Foundation? It is guaranteed that the Autry will stop spending much of their money on the Southwest Museum in Northeast LA. They spent too much on their lobbyists here in City Hall. The Southwest Museum could use the CRA MOCA-style funding for operations in order to keep it the first and oldest museum in all of LA as a real museum for Northeast LA. Jesse Rosas, LA 32 Neighborhood Council, and Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council all support the Southwest Museum Coalition and keeping Southwest Museum in Northeast LA, not in the Autry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Our next speaker is Lorraine Lawrence, and after that will be Oscar Johnson. Good morning.
Good morning, President Garcetti and council members. My name is Lorraine Lawrence, and I'm a tenant representative with the Tenant Representative Group, Reflections Glen Albin at 4122 Glen Albin Drive in Los Angeles, 90065. On behalf of all the tenants at Reflections Glen Albin, we are here today to publicly thank and commend our 1st District Councilman, Ed P. Reyes, and his staff for all their help, which succeeded in getting the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles to lower our August 2008 rent increase from 6% to 4%. Reflections at Glen Albin is a 58-unit apartment building for seniors aged 55 and over, owned by HACLA. Until August 2008, we believed that we were protected from economic hardship by living in a rent-controlled property owned by the City of Los Angeles. Then we learned that the City Council, who created the rent stabilization ordinance, had exempted government-owned property from the ordinance. Therefore, our rents can be raised at any time and any amount. On August 12, 2008, we sent a letter to Councilman Reyes with copies to Council President Garcetti, Councilman Labange, Chair of the Committee on Aging, Councilman Wesson, Chair on the Committee of Housing, to make all of you aware of the problems related to the fact that we are not under rent control and face serious financial hardships on fixed incomes in today's economy. Our Councilman Reyes promptly responded and pledged to work to find a resolution, and he did. On October 25, 2008, Councilman Reyes and his staff personally came to Reflections at Glen Albin, along with HACLA Executive Director Rudolph Montiel. Councilman Reyes addressed the concerns of our tenants, and Mr. Montiel announced that HACLA had made a mistake in raising our rents by 6%. He then told us that our rental increase would be only 4%. Mr. Montiel also pledged to look into further rental assistance for 4 of our tenants who were experiencing severe economic hardships. We commend Councilman Reyes for his compassionate understanding of the issues related to seniors, for his hard work, for his dedication and responsiveness to us, his constituents. We also commend 1st District Field Deputy Suzanne Jimenez.
I'm going to ask you to thank you for the kind words, and we appreciate it. And just to keep things as even as possible, we're going to have to have it there, but we thank you for coming in. I know Mr. Reyes appreciates your kind words. Oscar Johnson is our next speaker. After that is Phil Janerjan.
Good morning, Mr. Council. My name is Oscar Johnson. I'm a community active in the city of Los Angeles, speaking about the oppression of the African American peoples and the genocide what's going on in our country against us. And I see we have millions of dollars of buildings being built up in Los Angeles in construction, but we have no African American males working on the projects. And anyway, we're talking about our government. We've been misrepresented by our political party, by our Democratic Party. We are misrepresented of our party because our party does not represent the Constitution to us. We are the people of the United States of America. We have a law that governs us, and the law that governs us is the Constitution of the United States. If we're not governed by the Constitution of the United States, we're governed about communism or socialism party or something that's un-America. And everything un-America should leave America. We should end end corruption in government, end illegal immigration, stop drugs from coming into America, stop drugs from being grown in America. We need a clean government for unclean government. Clean up Washington. Clean up the government of the office of the government. Clean up the office of the district attorney. Clean up the office of the mayor. Clean up the office of the police department. Clean up the office of the sheriff department. It seems as though we have a government of one race of another race that is unconstitutional in America. As though we are minority and we are the African American that's in the minority in America. We have a governor over us is the majority of another race. That Caucasian America and Black America. We should have authority. We should have our own. We should have African American authority over African American peoples, not authority from other ethnic groups in America. We should have all illegal. We have illegal immigrants selling liquor in liquor stores in Los Angeles. This is illegal. Illegal immigrants handling alcohol in our city. That's against the federal Constitution.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Phil Janejan is our next speaker, and then Sean Murphy. Good morning.
Good morning, council members. My name is Phil Jennerjohn. I'm currently running for mayor of Los Angeles, and I'm here today to ask you to pass a message on to the mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa, because we all know he doesn't really like to talk to the voting public. I went on the radio this morning, KBC, McIntyre in the Morning, and I said that I'm getting a little tired of the mayor grandstanding at the sites of personal tragedies. You all heard about it in the news. Unfortunately, this gentleman down in Wilmington, he killed himself, killed his whole family. And I said on the radio, I said, I want the listeners and the voters out there to think about this. After this man's family was dead, Antonio Villaraigosa goes running down at a grandstand over this situation and get his face on camera. Thing is, if this gentleman would have called the mayor's office just a few hours before and said, I'm mentally distraught, I need some help, I know what the answer would have been. The answer would have been, the mayor is busy, get lost. Because I've been treated this way personally by people in the mayor's office. Okay, so please pass the message. It is unprofessional and undignified to grandstand at the site of personal tragedies. I hope I'm speaking for other voters in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sean Murphy. After Mr. Murphy will be Chuck Tenon. Good morning, Mr. Murphy.
Morning, Mr. President. Morning, Mr. President. It's been a while since I was here. I have faith for the President Obama. Please pray that he turns this economy around. It's getting worse. It's not getting any better. I have faith in him, and I hope things will turn around. The next thing I want to tell you, I try to fill out. There was no pins. You got to have some pins in the back. There was no pins when I try to fill out a general public card. You got to have some pins in the back from now on. I'm against the fare increase that's coming in July. It won't be the last time, I'll tell you this. If Antonio has faith in the, please, Antonio Villaraigosa, don't let the bus fares go up. People can't afford it. They can't even afford to put food on the table.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Chuck Tenon is our next speaker. And after Mr. Tenon is Anthony Manzano.
Council President Garcetti and
morning.
council members, on January 20th, it was a historical day for our nation. People everywhere expressed...
Chuck, if you'll move the microphone down a little bit, we'll hear you a little better. Thank you.
Okay, could I get the...
Go ahead, we'll credit you, don't worry.
All right. On January 20th, was a historical day for our nation. People everywhere expressed happiness and hope for change, challenge, and commitment. But what about this city? Will it do its part? We, the people of the city, hope that our leaders got the message. We don't need another year like 2008. And regarding city elections in March, Rick Orlov's article last Friday, shame on you for giving special attention to some and not others. It's called political pandering and not journalistic equality. And the publicity in the article was given to Jack Weiss and Carmen Tuchutanik because they had lots of campaign money to spend, big names, lots of bucks, and they think they can buy their way into the office. Not a word was mentioned about the other candidates, only that they were, quote, lesser names and unknown underdogs, like Noel Weiss, who is also a candidate for city attorney on the people's ballot. Don't be bullied or misguided by big names. What it's about is the lesser names and people that are for change, challenge, commitment, that will fight for the people, like Noel Weiss, who reminds me of President Obama, who is for the people. On another note, an octopus has 20 arms. Councilmember Wendy Gruhl has only 2 arms. But we would like to think she has 20 because she makes things happen. She's everywhere. Give her a chance and an opportunity as the next city controller. She will bring change, challenge, and commitment to the people of L.A. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anthony Manzano. After that is Zuma Dog. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members. My name is Anthony Manzano, resident in Rose Hills, neighborhood council member as well, community emergency response team leader. The topic for discussion today is emergency preparedness or emergency response. I've taken ample training from the fire department. I understand that there's less than 100 people with my recognized status entitled Neighborhood Preparedness Ambassador. As the ambassador, I seek continued support from my council members Reyes and Jose Huizar. I'm working with the Emergency Management Department to get bins located in the community. I guess the term that they've mentioned to me is called pod sites. There would be emergency site equipment, materials, supplies, water, food, blankets, and other necessary services that the community needs. So it is my perspective to continue my diligent work as an emergency response ambassador and ask the continued support from my council members Ed Reyes and Jose Huizar that when these pod sites do arrive on behalf of the Emergency Management Department or the Red Cross, that they be filled, and I'll monitor them regularly, monthly, every 6 months and every year to make sure that the supplies are transferred and changed regularly. Mr. Reyes has acknowledged my efforts in the past. Jose Huizar has acknowledged my efforts in the past. And the site would be Rose Hills, Our Lady of Guadalupe Church in Rose Hills would be one of the designated areas. It'll be handled by myself and Fire Department Station 47 along with council member staff, just to make sure that the community and the residents there have the ample supplies needed when an emergency or disaster does arise. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Manzano. And in Silver Lake, in my district, there's some great pods, emergency pods. If you'd like to take a look at them, I'm sure they'd be happy to share them with you. Mr. Zuma Dog is next, and then Arnold Sachs will follow. And after that, we will go to Rick Nightingale in Van Nuys. Good morning, Mr. Dog.
Yes, good morning. It's great to see so many people here today, and thank you, everybody who has mentioned they've seen me on TV. This will be an uncomfortable public comment today. I've been coming here about 3 years, and I'm here to issue the most serious of warnings to the general public. Now, this is my opinion, and I will be addressing council because it could have repercussions. I'm very concerned about the way Eric Garcetti is running these council meetings. I feel what happened yesterday during my public comment was flat-out censorship and the most flagrant violation of the First Amendment and Constitution. I know my reputation precedes myself, and Zuma Dog's this and Zuma Dog's that. But what is happening here is there's a pattern. When Zuma Dog, and I've been told that I'm quite possibly the most frequent outspoken critic of city council in history. So I'm saying you have an example of the most outspoken critic who is tutored and mentored with the top inside information by lawyers and activists and legal experts. And I come here and I speak about it. I'm here to say you don't get a fair shot. I'm here to say Eric Garcetti, if he doesn't like the direction that the speech is going, he will do anything to prevent it. And yesterday when I was speaking about what I consider to be the biggest issue council should be fearful of an avalanche of lawsuits, the REAP program, rent escrow, and I knew it was the most divisive issue. I knew it was the issue that they wanted me to speak about least. Well, Eric had to do anything to prevent me from continuing. I said, gee, Eric Garcetti looks nervous right now. He looks real nervous. And I said it just like this. And then I was about to say, I had a discussion with Eric on Friday when I explained the concerns of the REAP program, and he said, I know, and then he went to talk about measures. So on the record, Eric said he knew, and I'm saying the censorship better stop, and thank you. That's how it should be every time.
Thank you, Mr. Dogg. And just for the record, you're always entitled to come here and speak on anything as long as it isn't in a disruptive manner. And we appreciate your comments this morning. Mr. Sachs is our next speaker, and then Rick Nightingale from Van Nuys. Morning, Mr. Sachs.
Good morning. Good morning, Council. I'd like to apologize for my comments yesterday regarding your callous behavior on Friday. I appreciate your explanation, Mr. President, that 2 members became ill, causing a loss of a quorum. Because of that championship effort by the City Council to maintain a quorum throughout the presentations, I would like to propose that Council create their own award, a barf bag pin. Ill members can stay for 2 hours of presentation, but city business takes a back seat. Is it necessary to have a quorum for city presentations? Is it necessary to have a quorum for city business? You don't have to answer. Your actions speak plenty loud. Your explanation, Mr. President, only makes your conduct on Friday more heinous. To allow presentation to continue while members are going to be ill and to not have city business heard, knowing that you might lose a quorum. I'd also like to touch very briefly on the tragedy that occurred in Wilmington. I was asked that phone numbers for people who are in need of help be published, not just talked about, that the phone numbers for crisis intervention or suicide hotline be published for people who may be considering taking such tragic turns. And then finally, I'd like to congratulate all these people for showing up today. But it would be really, really nice if people had the same passion for other issues in the city. If this chambers was filled when the city council was considering their explanation regarding the loss of public access TV. The federal government just recently changed the date for the digital TV requirements. Why can't the city ask the state to overturn its actions regarding the insanity of the law regarding public access TV?
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Our apologies again on Friday for the loss of quorum. The illness happened while we were at the meeting, unfortunately. Rick Nightingale is our next speaker out in Van Nuys, and then we'll come back here for Richard Robinson and Michael Carrion. Good morning, Mr. Nightingale.
Good morning, Rick Nightingale. You know, I just don't understand why I'm going right back to the same situation that you people are supposed to be for the people. Not the needy people all the time, or the rich people, or even the middle-class people. But mostly the middle-class people, because they're getting screwed. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Unless you turn around and have anything to do with that, you just don't get along. Everything that is passed by the council is for the needy. I feel sorry for the needy, but they have to provide for themselves. I was taught when I was a little boy, if you don't earn it, you don't deserve it. If you don't earn it, you don't appreciate it. The more you do for yourself, the more you'll appreciate to what you've accomplished and what you will get. But if you keep giving everything away, they just don't appreciate it. They keep thinking they can keep on getting it. I don't understand about it. I feel sorry for those people up at the trailer park, but you're giving them $250,000 where they have the federal needs, state needs, and so forth. You go to the property owner. You're supposed to have insurance when you have fire and so forth. The council we're broke. There is no way. The only one that's doing anything is Cheeks. Man, I really think that about the gas cards and the cars. I worked for the school board at one time. We drive, we supplied our car, they gave us allowance for the gas. That's the way it should be. And if you get caught cheating on that, that's legal grounds for getting fired because you are doing a fraudulent thing. That is stealing. I don't see why anybody has to be able to drive all these company cars and how much it's costing. It's just unbelievable. Now, why don't you guys turn around and go with like our president? He turned around and froze everybody's pay anything over $100,000. Why don't you try that sometime on all these people that are making over $100,000? At least you're showing that you're trying to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nightingale. Richard Robinson is our next speaker back here in Council Chambers. Then Michael Carrion will follow Mr. Robinson. Good morning.
Morning, sir. Mr. President, members, sir, I met your dad when he was district attorney, and I have this to say about this attack against your administration, your person. One of the best days that ever occurred was November 4, when we extended term limitations. Why? Public service. I look for three things in a politician, sir. Number one, compassion. You have it. Number two, honesty. You have it. Number three, intelligence. Because you're compassionate and honest, your constituency keeps you informed. St. James 2:20 says, faith without works is dead. You're a worker.
Excuse me, Mr. President, hate to interrupt this love fest, but the speaker should address the whole council and not just you.
So, let me say this. What we see in the St. James version of the Bible is the reality that this, in my estimation, is the best thing that ever happened in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. Michael Carrion is our next speaker. And after that, our final speaker for general public comment is Mr. Armando Herman. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Michael Carrion, and once again, I'm here to speak on the illegal parking of the police department and the lack of enforcement. These are police cars parked in front of fire hydrants. These are police cars parked in the handicap zone. But the city council chooses not to do nothing about it. If they were to take 70 cars and cite them at $70 each at $250, we would get $1,225,000 a year. But they don't. So I guess I have to take my plea further. I've contacted the Federal Bureau of Investigation, a Department of Fraud, because I think the City Council is defrauding the taxpayers of Los Angeles. Fraud is when you take something by deceive. You're deceiving the public when you say you're enforcing the laws. This is happening in Hollenbeck Police Department. This is happening right outside these chambers right now. But Wendy Gruhl, Mr. LaBonge, and Mr. Parks would sit on that chamber, choose to listen and not do nothing. Ms. Gruhl's statement yesterday was the bicycle licensing laws were not uniformly enforced. Neither are the parking laws. I think these are more important than bicycle laws. But again, here's a picture of a lady that can't cross the street because Hollenbeck Police Department are blocked on the sidewalk. Why? Because they think they can. They're above the laws. I thought they took an oath to uphold the law. In my interpretation, they are breaking the law while wearing a badge. And that, my friends, is embarrassing to the city of Los Angeles. And it's about time somebody does something about it.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion. Ms. Gruhl would like to briefly respond to...
I would just like the public to know, and Mr. Carrion, that I appreciated yesterday that he highlighted some of these, and we have had a conversation with the police department and the chief of police's office to look at that and to send out the message again that they are not above the law. So thank you for your comments today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Armando Herman is our last speaker. Oh, Mr. Labange, did you want to respond briefly?
Committee, no, just on that issue here, where it's appropriate for e-plates to be exempt, we want to make sure they're exempt so the police officers could do their business in the building because there's not enough parking, but then also not block driveways.
It shouldn't be a discussion. It's not on the
I got
agenda.
that, Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you. Just for the public, under the Brown Act, we can only briefly respond and not in a policy way because it has not been agendized. Mr. Herman, you're our last speaker. Good morning.
Good morning, council members. Good morning, residents and constituents of Los Angeles. I attended a PAC meeting last night in the Boyle Heights area where I live, where I reside. Unfortunately, I was distraught at what I'm hearing about the way your tax-paying dollars, our recession bailout money is going to be spent. And we should have some more appropriate action when managing taxpayers' dollars. As you heard, we're going into a deep depression, like myself, so to speak. But I'm going to recall what Mr. Antonio Villaraigosa said. Visitors for the citywide housing plan. This input was crucial in shaping housing that works to provide more jobs. The impact of Measure R, the recently passed $32 billion transportation bond on housing, and the plan to stabilize neighborhoods negatively affected by foreclosure crisis. Many of us are suffering the problem of not just rent. We're going through the problems of life. And it's going to affect everyone here today. It'll affect you, Mr. Reyes, in your council district. It's going to affect Mr. Huizar in his council district. It's already affecting me and many of you. So, again, as you heard today, and as you're going to listen to many of the accounts, the economy is not for your self-indulgence. It's to be spent appropriately and it has to be accounted for. I would like to see and demand an audit on this. And at the same time, as I made an inquiry about why the LAPD pursued to knock on my door last evening after this event at the Evergreen Senior Center, it's inappropriate and uncalled for. If you wish to speak to me, please knock on my door. Do not kick open my gate. Do not kick my cat and dog bowls all over the yard. You're welcome to talk to me as I'm here to talk to you. And if I'm assertive, I'm not sorry, but that's my action as a constituent. Thank you.
Thank you to all members of the public who are here for our general public comment. We have two items that were called special for cards from the public. Arnold Sachs on item 16 would like to come forward, and also on item 17. We'll take those one after the next, Mr. Sachs, and then we'll come back to take up item number 11.
Good morning. Item 16 refers to a neighborhood business improvement district, and I'm just curious, in previous agenda items dealing with the neighborhood business districts, there's been a nonprofit that's been listed to run the business district for the business district, but there's nothing listed in any of these items, either 16, 17, or 18. So is there or is there not a nonprofit running this or those business districts? And if so, why isn't it part of the agenda? And if there's not, then why? Because, like I mentioned, in the Fashion District, in the San Pedro District, in the Chinatown District, there's a nonprofit. There were nonprofits listed as managing the business districts for the business districts. I questioned that then, and now I'm questioning why there isn't any listed for these agenda items. That's item number 16, sir.
Okay, we'll see if we can find that information. Why don't you sit tight right there? No members from the council wish to be heard on 16. Let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
16 is approved, and we'll see if we can find that information out for you. Number 17, and Mr. Arnold Sachs again.
17 is a transit business district. Another shady business district, as I've talked about with the Mid-City Exposition Line. This transit district in North Hollywood, is this with the Red Line? does it include the Orange Line busway? And if these are transit lighting districts, why are there not other transit lighting districts? Why isn't there a Blue Line transit lighting district? Why isn't there a Wilshire, a Purple Line transit lighting district? Why isn't there similar lighting districts along the Orange Line? What separates these two transit districts from all the other areas that are served by mass transit that they impose their own lighting districts? You've heard my questions regarding the Mid-City Expo line.
Mr. President, this is a business improvement district matter. He's not speaking on topic.
I don't know.
Go ahead. I believe it's not a lighting district, but this is a business improvement district, but we can see if we can find out information
Business
for you on
Improvement District, Lighting District. It's a district named regarding a transit system. Why are certain systems included as a district? Why not all the systems? Why not a system at the Western Station? Why not a system at the Vermont Station? Why not a system at the Normandy Station? Why not a system in the Hollywood Station? Why not a system at Melrose Station? Why not a system at the Vermont Station? Why not a system at the Blue Line stations? You're very particular with this public spending or public monies. And we have an idea that nobody knows where the funding goes. You've heard my discussion regarding the Mid-City Expo line. Where Mid-City is, we don't know.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sachs. And we'll try to get you the information on the first one. That will close our public comment on item 17. Any members of the council wishing to be heard? If not, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved as well. That will bring us to item number 11, and that was called special by the chair of the committee. We did not have quorum, I believe, in the committee hearing, so we will be having a public hearing here in council. I'd like to recognize Mr. Labange and see if you want to go straight to the speakers or how you want to do it.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of council.
And sorry, just for the public, because I know there's folks on both sides of this issue that are here today. On any item, the chair of the committee always has precedence. The maker of the motion would have second precedence, and the person calling it special is third under our formal council rules. So it's Mr. Labange as chair of the committee.
Thank you very much. I think it would be beneficial to the city council that the department heads from the various departments report on A, B, C, and D. If that's correct, Madam Clerk, did you read that out?
Mr. Labange, this is a communication from the chair, and this is regarding the proposed elephant pachyderm exhibit, and the communication has been distributed to the council members.
Great. So if I could ask the zoo director to go to the center table, the city engineer to go to the center table, and the CAO to go to the center table. Mr. President, I would also like to ask for a public hearing on this.
Would you like to do that first, or do you want to?
Well, I think I'd like to ask maybe just a brief overview so everyone knows what's before us here, and then also call for the city department heads to come back. But I would like to ask for a public hearing on this as well. And if we could have 20 minutes on each side or 30 minutes on each side, whatever you would say, because there's a lot of interest here. People have spent their time as well.
Okay, which one did you want? On just as a motion, did you want to do? You said 20 or 30 minutes each side. Is that
30 minutes? 30 minutes each side.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, I want to hear from the CAO just to say exactly what we have before, so that we understand what we're considering.
Okay, we'll take up the motion, Mr. Cardenas, on the motion.
Yeah, I'd just like to offer a friendly suggestion. If we can go to 20 minutes per side, with all due respect, we have heard hours and hours of public testimony, and we could hear hours and hours today as well. But 20 minutes per side, it's been heard in committee several times and on the floor.
I understand that. I understand that. Please, I understand that. But Mr. Cardenas, Mr. Smith, we have a shorter agenda today. This is a very serious issue for everyone. Absolutely everyone is passionate about what they believe. I would just ask for an additional 20 minutes, which would be 30 and 30. We give an opportunity, and we could also ask that there be 1 minute comment so everybody would have a maximum opportunity to speak as committee was run yesterday. So that is the motion.
Okay.
1 minute public comment, 30 minutes each side.
Is there an objection to, is there an objection to that? If there is, we'll take a vote. If there's no objection, we'll do 30 minutes each side. Okay? Mr. Labange, on your time, you wanted to ask some questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. CAO, just tell us what's before us.
Okay, I think but before you...
Hold on one second. I'm sorry, Mr. CAO. Mr. Zine, did you have a process question on that?
Yes, I did, Mr. Labange and Mr. Cardenas. I think we've heard this matter 2 or 3 times before in district committee. If we could have new information and not rehash what we've gone through in the past would be beneficial to all of us.
Okay.
Any kind of new information that's come about.
Explain D to me right now, Dennis.
Pardon me?
Explain D to me.
Explain D to you.
Yeah, item D. See,
I
this
don't-
is new
okay, hold on.
information.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
If we could
Hold
have
on, Mr.
new
Labange
information
and
and not a
Mr.
rehash
Zine.
of the old
Mr. Zine, your point's been made on that. Mr. Rosendahl, a point on the process only?
Point of order on the process. I want to know if we'll get clarity about the dollars and cents involved of city general fund money going forward. That is a significant issue for me, and I hope that information about what will it really cost the city going forward gets brought to our attention.
Okay. And if folks can, as much, if you make motions on order, it really should be on the process itself. If you have suggestions, some of that you can also incorporate into any questions you have. City staff will be here. You can do that before or after public hearing as well.
Just
Mr. Zine.
I heard on the news that one of our local celebrities is coming forward with a significant
Hold on,
contribution.
one
If that
second,
can also
Mr.
be
Zine.
brought forward.
Mr. Zine, we
all those
can't get
issues
into
that
this.
are new that weren't.
Hold on, Mr. Zine, we can't get into the substance on Mr. Labange's time. I can recognize you as the next speaker, but
Why that?
I was just for motions on process right now. Okay? Mr. Labange.
No, I just asked the CAO just to be brief on that issue there, and then we'll hear from the public.
Okay, to be very brief, basically we reported back on the costs of basically of the project and alternatives. We basically provide 3 options. Number 1 is firstly is to complete the project with the stated project budget of approximately $42 million. We were asked to look at the MICLA portion of this, which was approximately $14.5 million. And the cost of that debt service over the 20 years. Previously, we reported it was going to be roughly about $1.2 million per year. However, since then, GLAZA has stepped up and provided basically additional upfront funding of approximately $6 million on top of the $5 million that they've already committed. This $6 million would reduce the amount that we would have to issue, going from 14.5 down to 8.5, and thereafter then GLAZA would would basically reimburse the city for the debt service over a period of 10 or 20 years.
Okay. And we'll get more into the details. I'd like to ask that we open up the public hearing. I'd like to ask those who are opposed to it to speak first. And you're as chair, choose if you want to go back and forth or 30 minutes, 30 minutes.
I think it's actually the pro side for the proposal that was put forward. We'll go 10 speakers. The first 10 speakers will do a minute
Committee
each.
chair, though, recommended to go forward with the project. So I know
Right,
there
so
was
it's
some
opposed.
who were here
But
yesterday.
I think the way people filled out cards, though, the ones that are opposed to the continuing of the construction said for the proposal. So we'll read them like that. So Bob Barker is our first speaker. After that will be Cher, and then Lily Tomlin. Just your average day at City Council. Mr. Barker.
And Mr. President, in committee, if people did speak over the minute, I ran it a little, so whatever the purview of the chair is, not a strict
All right,
one.
we'll try to keep it 2 minutes. Nice to see you, Bob.
Good morning. Elephant experts from around the world have testified that this rinky-dink elephant habitat that the zoo insists on building is going to be completely inadequate. Now, zoo officials have left the impression that Billy is going to be completely happy on 3.6 acres. But the zoo is going to bring in 6 or 7 more elephants, female elephants, and Billy and the females will have to be separated. So already it has to be divided, the 3.6 acres. Then, of course, there are buildings, probably big buildings, and they are going to be on the 3.6 acres. And they have a waterfall, and they have a pond. And pretty soon we have 7 or 8 possibly elephants, all packed together in an area that is totally inadequate, and they are going to be miserable. They're going to become more unhealthy year after year, and they're going to die an early death. I urge you when you vote.
Thank you, Mr. Becker.
I urge you when you vote to follow your conscience.
Thank you, Mr.
and
Becker.
vote free Billy.
Okay. Our next speaker is Cher. Our next speaker is Cher. After that will be Lily Tomlin. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm dyslexic, so this is my worst nightmare. Okay, but I'm here because I care about Billy and the 7 to 10 other elephants that will be put in harm's way if this project goes ahead. You know, I'm not a fanatic. I just love animals like most of Americans. The LA Zoo has systematically concealed its use of electric shock and bull hooks to control its elephants while telling the LA, well, you know what, you can do all this, but I'd like to speak without the
Yeah, just as a reminder, we'll pause the time for a second. We do encourage, if folks want to have positive acclamations, clap, whatever, we traditionally always let that go. We ask folks not to boo and to be respectful and to not shout or make negative comments. Thank you. Please go ahead.
The LA Zoo has systematically concealed its use of electric shock and bull hooks to control its elephants while telling the City Council how humanely it has treated them, assuring them that they were in good health. However, one elephant died 2 months after the City Council was given such assurances. 2 elephants have died in the last 5 years, one in 2006 and one in 2004. And Billy, the sole remaining elephant at the zoo, lives in solitary confinement on hard ground and bobs his head and rocks his body all day long. According to all this, internationally renowned elephant experts, this is the result of prolonged psychic stress and anxiety.
Thank you. If we can ask you, we're going to try to keep it as even as possible for everybody, so if you can maybe just finish the thought and conclude.
Well, I've got lots of information, but...
Okay, if you want to hand it to the Sergeant-at-Arms, too, we'll make sure that gets distributed.
You know, from what I understand about Glaza, what they say is it's always been done this way. There have always been elephants in the city zoos through our history.
I'm going to be equal with both sides, so please do not shout. We'll let a little bit of leeway on the minute for everybody on both sides, okay?
So it's always been this way in the history of our country, that we've always had elephants in zoos, and that's what makes it right. But it doesn't make it right, because we've had other things that we're ashamed of. We've had slavery. You know, it wasn't right.
Thank you.
You know, it's not right now. Just because it's been there for a long time doesn't make it right.
And my apologies for having to cut you off, but we want to try to keep it as even. Thank you very much for your testimony today. Lily Tomlin is our next speaker. After Ms. Tomlin will be Kathy Justin.
Hi, my name is Lily Tomlin. I'm glad to be here and see all of you. The thing that stands out in my mind in terms of the AZA is that their space requirement for an elephant in a zoo is equivalent to a 3-car garage. So why anybody would align themselves with the AZA or something that's AZ accredited when they have sustained this requirement for decades and decades, and even the habitat that you plan to build is not adequate, no matter what anyone says. And one of the big problems that people worry about is that these building trade people will be out of work if this pachyderm forest is stopped. They don't have to be out of work. There are woefully miserable small habitats for other animals in our LA Zoo that these same workers can go and improve, and you can build out this pachyderm, so-called pachyderm forest to provide for the giraffes who need more space. This space will never be adequate for the elephants. Imagine yourself living in a 3-car garage. For you, for a human, that would be a closet. So Billy has subsisted for decades.
Thank you. Excuse me, that will be the last warning of the person shouting.
And we all know from the elephant
excuse me 1 second, Ms. Tomlin.
experts,
we will
please,
give some equal leeway on both
it's a
sides.
matter
That has
of
been agreed to, and
conscience
please,
and real morality
anybody who's
and
shouting
knowledge.
out to disrupt will be removed from the chambers. Thank you. Kathy Justin is our next speaker.
Good morning. The LA Times declared that this was probably not a good situation for Billy. It said the experts said it was not, but since we'd spent so much money already, might as well go ahead and finish. That's throwing bad money, good money after bad, and that makes it bad money. Can the council give us a guarantee, or can the zoo give us a guarantee that Billy will be in the facility, in a proper facility, using the entire space in 2010? And if not, can we have an agreement that at that time Billy would be moved to an appropriate facility? Because, you know, you've got time frames that aren't necessarily going to be real, aren't necessarily going to be funded correctly. Can we get a guarantee that this won't go on and on and on? And what kind of a guarantee will you give us? I'm asking you. I'm asking you. All right.
Thank you.
You can answer for the chair.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Robert Culp. Robert Culp? Is he here? Not, oh, he's coming. Okay. And then after that will be Mariana Tosca. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, all. Those of us who are here in support of Councilman Cardenas' position to close the elephant exhibit at the Los Angeles Zoo have been shocked and dismayed at the show of sheer power that the zookeepers have mounted in and around City Hall the last few days. It tends to be very intimidating and make us all feel as if we were pitiful, pathetic animal activists poking our noses in where they're not wanted because we have nothing else better to do. I have something else better to do. I am not an animal activist. I am a taxpayer for 50 years in this community, and I do deplore my tax dollars and yours individually and collectively, the tax dollars of everybody in this room going to this shameless political boondoggle. I urge you to support Councilman Cardenas' motion and his position overall to close the elephant exhibit at the Los Angeles Zoo. Please, I beg of you.
Thank you. Mariana Tosca is our next speaker. After that is Kevin Nealon. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. When at a city, state, national, and global level we are in a serious recession, it would be a flagrant misuse of $42 million to spend it on an exhibit that the world's leading elephant authorities have already told us will be entirely inadequate and inhumane if built. It is offensive and ill-thought to propose bringing new animals into a zoo collection when there are scores of other animals already living there in shockingly outmoded enclosures who desperately need to have their living conditions improved. The millions of people who are in favor of closing this exhibit are not anti-zoo activists. We support the expenditure of money there for infrastructure improvements. I question the argument of conservation that's being bandied about. If it was truly the driving motivation, the zoo would not be errantly throwing money away on public relations campaigns and marketing ploys and $40,000 full-page ads in the Los Angeles Times. To put this in perspective, the money that was spent on that LA Times ad could have paid for the conservation efforts in Amboseli National Park to save 20,000 elephants for 6 months. The money that is earmarked for this exhibit, the $42 million, could pay for the preservation of 30, all of Kenya's elephants, 30,000 of them, for 20 years.
Thank you very much.
Please.
Kevin Nealon is our next speaker. And then Tippi Hedren.
I am Kevin Nealon, and I am not anti-zoo, but I am anti-inadequate zoo. And I just want what's best for Billy the elephant and not what's best for the LA Zoo. And it's, I feel that, you know, if an elephant has a choice to go to a habitat or a sanctuary, like the one down in Tennessee, I'm sure that they would take that in 1 second. From the history that we understand about the LA County Zoo, it's not a great place for elephants. You look at all the elephants that have died there since 1975, and it's not good. So I'm in favor of moving Billy out of the zoo, as I think everybody should be, and I'm sorry that so many people are misguided with the exhibit for the plans for the exhibit as it exists now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Tibby Hedren, and then Madeline Bernstein.
I've lived on the Shambhala Preserve since 1976. We had 2 elephants there, 2 African elephants, who were able to walk up the river. They could swim in a lake. They had a fabulous, fabulous time. They were healthy. They didn't even have to have their feet done all the time because they were walking on real earth. It seems odd to me that in this time, this day and age, where zoos should be concerned about the quality of life of the animal, that this pitiful little area is going to be mapped out for, 3 or 4 elephants? That's absurd. That isn't enough room. In point of fact, there is nothing that we can give a wild animal in captivity that they need. An elephant walks out in the wild. They walk 50 miles a day. There are reasons for that. It's to
If you could
anyway,
just wrap up your thoughts. Thank you. Sorry.
I am stunned that Los Angeles doesn't come to the table and say, we are landlocked, we can't give the elephants anything that they need, and let Billy go.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Madeline Bernstein is our next speaker. And after Ms. Bernstein will be Catherine Doyle. Good morning.
Good morning. Look, this is not a difficult question. You've heard the testimony, the science, the fiscal issues. What we all want to do is come together and figure out a way to make the Los Angeles Zoo a great place for elephants on sufficient acreage with sufficient substrata. Let's move Billy to a sanctuary and give him life and an ability to thrive, and then let's figure out a way to deal with accommodating more elephants at the zoo in the future so that people can come here and say, look at that, the LA Zoo, what a place for elephants, instead of look at that, the LA Zoo, what a disgrace. Thank you.
Catherine Doyle is our last speaker on this side before we switch over to the other side for 10 speakers from that side.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Catherine Doyle, and I'm in Councilmember Weiss's district. My concern is that the elephant exhibit is eating up critical funding, yet there is no analysis of its effect on other zoo projects that would provide better housing for a variety of animals and improve the overall quality of the zoo. The elephant exhibit is using up all of Prop A funds and almost 20% of Prop CC funds. Exhibits identified in Prop CC, Rainforest of the Americas and the Insect and Reptile Center, are experiencing serious budget and funding problems, yet the budget for the Pachyderm Forest, which was not identified in bond language or approved by voters, has been increased. The Rainforest exhibit has undergone budget cuts to the point where the project may have to be shelved until sufficient funds are available, yet no one's asking about the loss of those jobs. The Reptile and Insect Center costs are now higher than the allotted budget, resulting in replacement of exhibit space with landscaped areas. The Pachyderm Forest budget increase was met in part using MICLA savings from the Golden Monkey exhibit, which holds no golden monkeys, nor is there a rival guaranteed. Nearly half of the Golden Monkey's original budget was paid for with MICLA funds. If GLAZA really wants to help relieve the burden on our general fund, it would take over payments for those MICLA funds first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Kimberly Marteau Emerson, and then Karen Winnick. Ms. Emerson?
Wow. Okay. Hi.
And then Karen Winnick will follow. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Marteau Emerson, and I am not a celebrity. I have been a public servant for essentially the last 16 years, and for the last 6 years I've been a zoo commissioner, and my job, which the Mayor Hahn asked me to do, and then Mayor Villaraigosa asked me to renew, is to oversee and scrutinize the operations of the zoo. And this commission has analyzed and looked at this issue month in and month out for the past 6 years, longer. It started before I got there, and I just want to say that you need to listen to the people that are inside who are doing this day in and day out. We have no agenda other than to make this a world-renowned humane place with top facilities. And we feel incredibly reassured that this is both a humane project and a fiscally responsible project. Should you deny this project, you will impact the city of Los Angeles globally as a leader in conservation efforts. One last thing I want to say. When you take away a species, you take away the money for the conservation. Okay? If that's what you want to do, you want to take Los Angeles out of that mix, then this is the road you're going down. Please keep us in the eye of the world as a conservation leader. This is an important zoo. It's one of the largest in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Winnick is our next speaker.
Hi, I'm Karen Winnick, and I'm a zoo commissioner. It's very difficult to hear these same antiquated arguments. I spent the day with the director of the Santa Barbara Zoo, and they intend to keep their elephants until they no longer are alive. They're 30 years old now. They can't afford to do what we've already put a great deal of money into, to make this a world-class venue for elephants, for conservation. Elephants are used as the basis for support for field conservation of that species when they're exhibited in zoos. And as Kimberly said, once we don't longer exhibit an animal, we can no longer support conservation efforts in the wild. And right now we're working with flora and fauna in Cambodia and other efforts. Okay, so if you care about elephants, they're ambassadors. New research has also proven that elephants move in response to their needs. If they don't need to find food, they don't need to travel so far. And also, council people, I urge you to care about your constituents. What about the children and the people that want to come to the zoo, okay? It's the same old antiquated arguments, and they're just not current anymore. They're not true.
Thank you, Ms. Winnick. Our next speaker is Connie Morgan. Our next speaker is Connie Morgan, and after that is Laura Wasserman. Good morning.
Thank you, Council Member. I represent the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association, which represents the public. I have to tell you that the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association has assured itself over and over again that the conditions at the Los Angeles Zoo are humane for elephants. So I'd like to tell you what the public has said on the issue. First of all, the commission, your commission has voted in favor of continuing the project. Secondly, the poll conducted by Fairbank, Maslin, Mullen and Associates, which I know you will agree is a very fair polling corporation, has the endorsement by the public for this exhibit. Third, the editorial endorsement of the Los Angeles Times. They came out and took a good look at the exhibit. They discussed the pros and cons in a balanced way, and they came out for continuing for the exhibit. We have offered you money to finish this exhibit, to pick up have the private side pick it up, and it will cost you not to continue. So we hope we have your support.
Thank you. Laura Wasserman will be our next speaker. And after Ms. Wasserman will be Myung-Soo Seo.
Hi, I'm not a celebrity either. However, I am a taxpayer and a big supporter of this city. So is our family. One of the things that we did is we wanted the zoo to be better. We wanted the elephants to have a better place. We donated $1 million to the exhibit in order to make it a better place, along with many other people. We've also donated, on top of doing things for animals, we've donated money for schools, something that the city needs as well. I think that this elephant exhibit needs to be done for our children, for education, and to make our city have a better zoo and a better place for people to be safe and to be able to go where they can afford it. In all these constituencies, these people can't afford to go somewhere. They can't even afford to go to some sanctuary outside of the city. They can barely get to the zoo. We, at the zoo, we pay for busing so they can get there. We get them there. The LA Unified kids get to go to the zoo for free. These kids will never see an animal in the wild. And I implore you, please, we need this zoo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Myung-Soo Seok. Our next speaker is, thank you. Our next speaker is Myung-Soo Seok. Myung-Soo. After that will be Phyllis Kupferstein. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, council members. My name is Myung-Soo Seok, Development Director for the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor. I'm here on behalf of over 800,000 workers that are affiliated with our organization. And the reason that Los Angeles County Federation of Labor has taken on a support role for keeping the exhibit at the zoo is a very simple reason. Right now, in the Building and Construction Trades Union, some of our local unions are faced up to 30 to 40% of their members who's currently out of work. And this is a development that's been occurring not over the last couple of years, but over several months. It's a very accelerated development that caught many of us off guard. And we have taken on a commitment that in a national recession and national crisis such as this that we all face, we have to fight for every single job, and we have to support every single project that's shovel-ready, that's ready to move, and that could put 405 working families in the construction trades and their families back to work, and so they could have a subsistence as they're living. Thank you.
Thank you. Phyllis Kupferstein. And then following Phyllis will be Vicki Garnett.
Good morning, council members. I'm Phyllis Kupferstein, a mother, a taxpayer, and a longtime trustee and officer of GLAZA. The other side is vocal, and it has star power, but it does not represent the majority of Los Angeles residents. The poll that GLAZA commissioned by Fairbank, Maslin, Mullen, and Associates was conducted in January of a representative sample of 500 randomly selected Los Angeles residents. The results show that 67% of LA residents believe the zoo should enhance elephant care by finishing the elephant project. Among registered voters, 4-1 want this project completed. In fact, nearly 7 in 10 LA residents react negatively to the hundreds of job losses that will result from shutting down the project. 8 in 10 residents have a favorable impression of the zoo, and 3/4 visit the zoo regularly. Please respect the will of the Los Angeles residents and complete this project.
Thank you, Ms. Kupferstein. Vicki Garnett. After Ms. Garnett is Colleen Ryan will follow Ms. Garnett.
Good morning. My name is Vicki Garnett, and I have been an elephant keeper at the zoo for 14 years. It is very frustrating when the way we manage our elephants is criticized by the management of elephants in sanctuaries is not made public. Having elephants stand for long periods of time on cement is bad for elephants. We have not held our elephants overnight on cement for 14 years. The African elephants at Paws are locked in the barn for 14 hours overnight on cement floor. The Los Angeles Zoo is committed to exercising our elephants. The elephants at Paws are let out of the barn and not encouraged to move around. The new pachyderm forest offers more than adequate shade for the elephants. The Asian elephants at Paws are out in their habitat with no cover unless they come back into the barn at night. It would not be fair for me to judge how sanctuaries manage their elephants because I do not work for a sanctuary. I am just presenting the facts to you. Please complete the pachyderm forest. Thank you very much.
Colleen Ryan is our next speaker. After Ms. Ryan will be Ron Miller.
Hello.
Ryan.
Good morning, council members. For the past 2 months, volunteers, students, animal caregivers, zoo, and GLAZA staff have been using their weekends to collect signatures of animal lovers who support the completion of Billy's new home. We've collected them in front of the zoo, in our neighborhood shopping centers, on soccer fields throughout the city, and in our living rooms. In short, wherever we have had a chance to tell Billy's story accurately and with first-hand information. We asked the students from the North Hollywood Science Magnet School, which resides on the zoo campus, to present these postcards to you. Although the cards are not divided by districts, rest assured, each of your districts are well represented. May I ask that a bag full each be given to each council member?
We'll have the Sergeant at Arms if you can collect those, please. Thank you.
Thanks. Each bag contains 850...
Sorry, if you can just give it to the Sergeant at Arms there. He'll make sure they get distributed. Thank you.
Thank you. Each bag contains 850 cards. That is a total of 12,760 cards total. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Ron Miller. Mr. Ron Miller is our next speaker. And after Mr. Miller will be Jenny McNary. Ron Miller? Is Ron Miller around? Sorry, it was Ron Miller. And then Jenny McNary.
Good morning, council members. I represent the LA Orange County Building Trades and Plumbers Local 78, and we stand for good paying jobs. This job has already started. I see no reason to stop it. We build schools, we build hospitals, and we'd like to build this elephant sanctuary. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny McNary is next. Jenny McNary. And then Joshua Sisk will follow.
Councilman Garcetti, I would like to actually give my time to Karen Polley.
We unfortunately can't yield time under our rules, so we'll try to get to as many people as possible, and I'm just going in the order that the folks on both sides have put them in, so I will try to accommodate. But if you don't mind, please. Thank you.
My name is Jenny McNary. I'm a curator of mammals at the Los Angeles Zoo. I've been employed at the zoo for almost 30 years. It has been suggested on numerous occasions that the Los Angeles Zoo should join those progressive cities that have closed their elephant exhibits. The animal activists who are charging us with inhumane care and financial mismanagement have used the word progressive to sway your opinion. The fact is that most of those zoos have made that decision because of financial constraints or physical space requirements. The Los Angeles Zoo and City Council has received thousands of letters in support of construction of the Los Angeles Zoo's Pachyderm Forest. I'd like to read comments from a couple of these letters that are from zoos that no longer house elephants or will be phasing out elephants. From the Gladys Porter Zoo, institutions such as the Los Angeles Zoo, which have the focus and financial wherewithal to construct an elephant habitat that is suitable, spacious, and able to accommodate a family and well-organized group, should be supported and applauded. From the Lincoln Park Zoo, the Los Angeles Zoo will serve as a crucial role of exposing people to these amazing creatures. It will help create an important connection, educate the plight, and inspire conservation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments today. Joshua Sisk is our next speaker. Mr. Sisk?
Can you hold my time just 1 second? Can I have Karen Polley stand in for me, not for my time, just to take my, I want to make sure she speaks. Can she have my
I'm sorry,
spot?
we have to go in this order, but I will try to accommodate everybody as much as we can here.
Okay. I just want to say, I know very little about politics and how the city council works, and, that is why I put my trust into you guys as the professionals to do the job. We just ask that you do the same for the professionals at the zoo. I mean no disrespect to any council member. I have all the due respect. But to make such an important decision based on the emotionally driven opinion of such a small group of people, no disrespect. Cher, I love you to death. Bob Barker. But if you want to know how to spin a wheel, let's talk to Bob Barker. If you want to know how to do an amazing concert, by the way, then talk to Cher. But let's talk to the professionals at the zoo that care for these animals. They have their experts. They have their experts. We can have experts lying 3 blocks down the street for you in support of the zoos. Just please, I am encouraging you to please support the professionals. Not a single one of us would work at the zoo if we thought for 1 minute our animals were not being cared for. These accusations, elephants were cared for 30 years ago. Billy has never seen electrical shock. He's never seen chains. You need to know the facts of the sanctuary. We're basically a sanctuary in the middle of Los Angeles.
Thank you. We have Next, we have some cards. Thank you, folks. If you can please sit. We will now, there are some cards here that were for general comment. Now, just as a word of warning, sometimes people put general comment and then really are on one side or the other. So if I call these names, if you really are putting down general comment but really are strongly one side or the other, please, we want to try to go in the correct order. So Anthony Manzano is are you just giving general comments? You're not advocating one side or the other?
Mr. Garcetti, I have to speak out because...
I'm sorry, Ms. Tomlin. Ms. Tomlin, excuse me, Ms. Tomlin. Ms. Tomlin, excuse me. We have to hear from Mr. Manzano. We're happy to talk to you privately right now. Ma'am, we will return to people on that side as well. I'm trying to be fair. What we do, Ms. Tomlin, is we go on the for side, the against side, general comments, and then we'll continue on the for and the against sides, okay? So we're trying to keep that as fair and neutral as possible. Anthony Manzano on general comments.
Thank you, Mr. President, council members. I am nor in favor or opposed to the actual elephant exhibit, but the entire zoo is an exhibit, and we should not be selective with just the elephant exhibit. We have to have a visionary alternative, and a visionary alternative uses may be a strong consideration. We need to consider, will costs ever be recovered for an expense of this magnitude? We can use more economically utilization of public funds for better police patrol, perhaps computers at the libraries, or street repairs, or additional zoo enhancements. An innovative great option would be the Los Angeles Wildlife Survival Center. We can handle case-specific health concerns and endangered animal treatment. We can educate mature students into specialized veterinarians. We would be recognized as a world-class and worldwide nature center for care, and we will generate revenue to tend to the exotic wildlife animals throughout the world, offering them cures, surgeries, and repair of injuries needed. We've solved education, instinctive natures to care, we've solved revenue, and with global emphasis would be located here in Los Angeles, and we are show that we are positive, environmentally conscious. With a perception of captivity will be transferred to revitalizing life. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker on the general comments as well, Michael Carrion. I'm sorry, the next speaker is Michael Carrion on the general side.
Yes, my name is Michael Carrion, and I don't go either way on this one. It's kind of confusing to me. No matter how you pitch it, I'm going to believe both sides. But my question is more, Mr. Zine was saying it earlier, your minds are already made up, so this is just a dog and pony show. You guys have already made your minds up on what you're going to do. Mr. Weezer said this years ago about the Belmont complex, that it was negatable. You guys were able to decide this, but you let it go on and on and on until it cost the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars. When are you guys going to sit down and deal with all these people here on an honest basis, openly? Tell them what you feel. Tell them how it is. Quit having all these discussions behind doors and then wait till the last second till your vote counts to tell your constituents which side of the fence you're on. That's all I ask you guys to do.
Thank you. And then we have Caroline Stevenson as well. Caroline Stevenson, are you here? If not, Damon Johnson. Is Damon Johnson here? Here comes Mr. Johnson. These are also for general comments, correct? Or do you have a position on one side or the other?
Actually, for the proposal.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to hold because we're just doing general comments right now. Is Caroline Stevenson here? And do you have a? And Ms. Stevenson, you two are just general comments, not one side or the other on this?
Not related to the elephant matter.
Okay.
It's related to something else.
Okay.
How much time do I have?
We had it in. Oh, I see you put general comments.
Yeah.
We'll get back to public comment on that in a second. We're going to stay on 11, but as soon as we finish voting, I'll call you up. I'm sorry. Our apologies. Okay. We'll go back to the the first side that spoke. Jennifer Conrad is our next speaker, and after that is Patty Schenker.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Conrad, and I'm a wildlife veterinarian, and I have 15 years experience, and I went to UC Davis for vet school. I've worked with elephants at the LA Zoo, and I've worked with elephants in the wild. And the elephants in the wild never, ever have the problems that the elephants in the zoo have. They do not have the feet issues. There's an entire textbook written about elephants in the zoo and their feet problems. So I don't think that anyone here should deny that Billy is going to have those problems. He already has problems with his toes. You can see the toenails are cracked. So it's just a matter of time before he starts to suffer the way the other elephants have. The other animals in the zoo are suffering, though, because Billy's taking the lion's share of all the money, and the other animals could benefit from it greatly. So please reallocate the money, spend it on the other animals, and everybody would be happy. Let Billy go. Thanks.
Thank you. Patty Shanker is our next speaker. Patty Shanker is our next speaker. Patty Shanker. Is she here? If not, Malathi Ramji. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I want to address the issue of the public voted for the zoo bond. I am a taxpayer. I am a member of the public. And some years ago, I was one of the gullible public who voted for the zoo bond because it was presented as making the zoo more humane for all its animals. Who could argue with that? I did not vote for extending the captivity of one species to its detriment. It is also time to clear up some of the misconceptions being put out by the LA Zoo. Billy will not be castrated at the sanctuary. By the way, the elephants at Paws are free to walk in and out of the barns. They are not kept locked up all the time. The elephant exhibit at the zoo is 3.6 acres, subdivided into 4, not 6 acres as reported by some media. Billy, in contrast, he will have at least 20 acres at the sanctuary. Work at the elephant exhibit has only involved demolition, clearing, and grading, and one small half-acre pen has been constructed. Geeta and Tara died horribly less than 4 years ago under the zoo's supposedly enhanced medical care and round-the-clock monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Marlene Goodman is our next speaker. Marlene Goodman. And after Marlene Goodman will be David Castleman. Good morning.
This week, President Obama reversed the Bush's administration on the killing of wolves in around Yellowstone Park. They will now be allowed to live. This council has the same opportunity to be on the right side of being humane. Send Billy to Paws. Close the elephant exhibit. Spend the dollars on the other animals living in the most horrific conditions, like the jaguar who paces up and down, the giraffes that don't have enough room, and the lions that live with painted rocks on their concrete. Don't we care about them as well? Follow this program. No jobs will be lost. If you follow this program, jobs will be created because you'll be doing things for the other animals. You don't have a choice. Be humane. Follow what the President of the United States is doing for everybody now.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Castleman. Good morning.
Good morning. GLAZA has generously given $1 to $2 million a year for the zoo, but there is nothing that they're offering which exceeds that. They are proposing essentially the same level of donation and telling you they're stepping up. The truth is they're not offering a contract, they're not offering collateral, they're not even offering to pay a dime until the council both approves and the exhibit is completed. That is not an enforceable promise. GLAZA can change its mind, it could lose its money to another Bernie Madoff, and the city will have no recourse. When the GLAZA donors learn the truth and refuse to donate, there could well be litigation over who pays those NICLA bonds. Every non-zoo expert supports closure of the exhibit. How does the zoo explain 14 dead elephants? If they're so well cared for, why are they dying? They can use the same space, all the same number of jobs, and you don't have to have another dead elephant in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Beverly Caskey. Beverly Caskey.
Thank you. I'm Beverly Caskey, and I speak on behalf of the Humane Society of the United States, the nation's largest animal protection organization with more than 10.5 million members and constituents nationwide, and over 500,000 residing here in Los Angeles County. The past few years have seen an increase in the attention to and interest in the status of elephants in captivity, and it is a consensus among wildlife researchers, behavioral experts, and scientists alike that the world's largest and most social land mammal does not thrive in zoos. The facts are clear. Even the most expensive and innovative enclosures cannot provide the space or the environment to meet the complex physical and psychological needs of this highly intelligent animal that can walk tens of miles a day and can live in a herd up to 40 to 50 family members. The overwhelming success of Proposition 2 shows that when the public is educated about a humane issue, they choose compassion. How can we choose anything but compassion for Billy? The Humane Society of the United States respectfully asks that Billy be allowed to go to a sanctuary. The money now earmarked for the elephant exhibit could be redirected to improve the lives of many zoo animals who actually stand to benefit from it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Gallucci. Chris Gallucci is our next speaker, and after that is Karen Bonadillo.
Hi, I'm Chris Gallucci. I have worked for the Shambhala Preserve for over 35 years. I'm qualified to speak for captive elephants. I lived with two of them for over 30 years. I have locked myself in their barn, thrown away the key just to look through their eyes. Elephants, we as humans cannot give captive elephants what they need. But if we're in the position to be responsible for them, we've got to learn to look outside the box. Learn to look through their eyes. Elephants truly have feelings, good ones, bad ones. They have emotions. A full-grown elephant has the same mentality as a 5 or 6-year-old child. So I must say, if anyone tried to take my elephant away from me, it would have been an impossible task. But saying that, if I could not take care of my elephant properly, I would have done what is best for the animal. So you, the council, has a difficult decision to make today, and I hope you choose wisely and look through the elephant's eyes.
Thank you, Mr. Gallucci. Our next speaker is Karen Bonadillo. After that will be Katia Louise. Good morning.
Good morning. According to CNN yesterday, Congress has moved to prevent money from the proposed $8.25 billion stimulus package from being used for zoos, aquariums, golf courses, swimming pools, and casinos, an effort to ensure the bill funds only what it calls the highest quality infrastructure projects. The purpose of this bill is to direct funding at projects that are primarily and clearly aimed at benefiting the economic conditions of communities and the public at large. The bill states, the federal government and all levels of government are directed to look with a skeptical eye at projects that don't meet the test. CNN revealed last month that a list of ready-to-go stimulus projects endorsed by the U.S. Conference of Mayors included museum and zoo renovations, aquatic centers, skateboard parks, and bike and horse paths. In a December Wall Street Journal article, AZA spokesman Steve Feldman cited new elephant exhibits in Los Angeles and Cleveland as examples of major new infrastructure products ready for federal dollars. Please, I urge you, do not go ahead with this $42 million waste of taxpayer money. Please close the elephant exhibit. Send Billy to sanctuary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Katia Louise. And then Aaron Leiter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a rebuttal to expert testimony and public comments made by those supporting the zoo and the campaign led by Councilman Labange, who went on record stating that he loves elephants, and therefore, in support of his love, we should all subscribe to his conclusion that doing the best thing means doing what's best for the zoo. However, I remind all council members and present zoo enthusiasts that the crux of the matter centers on key evidence regarding the zoo's history. Moreover, their inability to successfully care for elephants. The very definition of a zoo makes it clear, and in this case, as evidence supports, the zoo's primary agenda is to collect wild animals, for the convenience of the public's viewing, allegedly justified under the guise of conservation, which in this case, as we all know, requires the removal of these animals from their natural habitat. hence the zoo's position to ignore the welfare and best interest of Billy in order to meet their own agenda. Please don't be persuaded to look away from the crux of this matter. Please, I conclude, do the right thing, which is doing the right thing for Billy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Aaron Leiter is our next speaker. After that will be Sue Blackmore.
Good morning, Council. There was a lawsuit that was sent against the city about this issue. I'm the plaintiff in that lawsuit. It was very simple. I believe that you made a decision 2.5 years ago without the true facts of what was happening at the LA Zoo. We have come forth, we have taken depositions, and in the expression, the emperor has no clothes, we hear about all this information. The elephants are dead. Since 2000, over 60 elephants have died in this country in captivity. There is no improvement, there is no change. It is very clear. You have heard from every non-zoo expert, but yet wildlife expert, that elephants can't live in zoos. It also goes to this point. Whatever the council decides to do, jobs will not be lost if we don't build the elephant exhibit. There are many things. We banter around this thing about a world quality zoo. Are you kidding me? Have you been to the zoo? It is in desperate needs of improvements in every single area, and to go on one species is not the right thing to do. And also from a humane point of view, please, let's do the right thing here. Let's send Billy to sanctuary and put a stop to this. Let's fix the zoo that is in pretty much a pretty deplorable condition. Thank you.
Sue Blackmore is our next speaker. After that will be David Kirsch on the other side.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Much has been said about elephant sanctuaries, and I would like to comment on that. By the time sanctuaries receive elephants, most have spent a lifetime of intense confinement in zoos and circuses. When they arrive, the damage is already done. They come with chronic foot infections, arthritis, tuberculosis. If anything, this should be viewed as a further indictment of the inadequate conditions in which elephants are held in captivity. The causes of death in the last 5 years at Paws include arthritis and foot disease developed over decades spent in circuses and zoos, and kidney failure. The elephant 71, who died at age 26, was lost to pancreatitis. It is believed that her health was compromised at an early age after she suffered the trauma of seeing her family killed in a cull, and then was imported to the US. She was so ill, she was near death, but Pat Derby saved her. Paws was fully vetted by the LA Zoo staff and approved as a home for Ruby in 2007. This highly regarded facility has a proven record and has truly set the bar for the care of elephants in captivity. At Paws, Billy would live on 20 acres of grassy rolling hills. It would make a fine home for him, and I urge you to send him there.
Thank you very much. David Kirsch is our next speaker. After that, we'll have Damon Johnson.
Good morning. My name is David Kirsch. I'm here on behalf of the Carpenters Contractors Cooperation Committee. I'm here to urge you to ensure the zoo project proceeds as planned. There are construction companies, including union contractors, who have already spent time and money to bid on this project and who are anxious for it to move forward. This project will keep contractors in business, and it will make possible for construction workers who are unemployed or facing unemployment to continue working and be able to support themselves and their families, and in many cases not lose their homes like so many around us. Every day we read about the stark situation regarding unemployment. We cannot afford to put more people out of work. We cannot take a pass on this project. This project creates good-paying jobs with health care and pension benefits, as well as apprenticeship training opportunities. These are jobs to stimulate the economy and keep our communities strong and safe. We cannot let this opportunity pass up. Let's keep the project on track. Thank you.
Thank you. Damon Johnson is our next speaker. And after that will be Kathleen Cox.
Good morning, Council. My name is
morning.
Damon Johnson. I am a neighborhood council member for the South Central Neighborhood Council and a Assembly District delegate for the 48th Assembly District. I am here today because I was brought here under false pretenses and lied to by our own LA Zoo. I was brought here today to support keeping Billy here at the LA Zoo. But upon research from myself and my field deputies with the Neighborhood Council, we found out that we were lied to by the same city departments that the city charter created for us to uphold the city services for. Today, I come to you and I ask you to vote and send Billy to a safer place. We've had developers come up here because they want the dollar. We have people come and we've had people talk because we want our kids to go and see Billy at the zoo. But the bottom line is we have not heard anyone who wants to look out for the welfare of Billy and what's best for Billy. Let's send Billy to a safer place.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Kathleen Cox. After Ms. Cox is Karen Poley.
My name is Dr. Kathleen Cox, and I am the research director at the Los Angeles Zoo. On January 16th, I gave public comment to summarize Billy Elephant's behavior based on 2,089 hours of observation. Contrary to statements made by those who do not want elephants in zoos, Billy spends less than 25% of his day in repetitive behavior. When food or other items of interest are more challenging to obtain, his repetitive behavior drops dramatically. I think we're all in agreement that Billy needs a more stimulating environment, which is why we initiated the Pachyderm Forest. As an ethologist, I know that what is most important is to be sure that the critical features are available in an animal's habitat. For elephants, these include opportunities for choice, tactile stimulation, particularly of the feet and trunk, exercise in varied terrain, social interaction, and cognitive challenges. Such features far outweigh the value of space alone. All of these features are designed into the Pachyderm Forest, which will make a superb habitat for Billy. Stand by your sound endorsement of the Pachyderm Forest in 2006 and vote to complete the state-of-the-art exhibit.
Thank you. Karen Poley is our next speaker. And after that, after Karen will be Chris Willis.
Good morning. My name is Karen Poley, and I've been an animal keeper at the Los Angeles Zoo for 28 years. And it is frustrating that when something happens at the Los Angeles Zoo, it is so scrutinized and the facts are so exaggerated. Yet if the same thing were to happen at a sanctuary, you might not even hear about it. But before the City Council votes whether or not to continue the construction of the new elephant exhibit at the Los Angeles Zoo, I'd like you all to please consider these facts. Only 3 elephants have died at the Los Angeles Zoo since 1994. That's 3 in the past 14 years. By comparison, since January of 2008, within the last 1 year, 5 elephants have died between the 2 sanctuaries. January 11th, 2009, an elephant died at the Tennessee Sanctuary. At Paws alone, 4 elephants have died just this past year. 1 in January 2008, April 2008, September 2008, and the latest just a week ago today. Some of these elephants are also very young, even in the 20s, and as you've heard today, it's always someone else's fault. Of course, it would not be fair of me to reflect upon the cause of these deaths at sanctuaries, because I personally don't know the facts. I wasn't there. However, I'm merely stating these facts so you could be better informed. Please, keep Billy where he belongs, with the family he already knows and the one he's about to meet. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chris Willis. Chris Willis is our next speaker. After Chris Willis, following that will be Kelly Suarez.
Hi, my name is Chris Willis. I am an animal keeper at the zoo. I really don't have anything profound to say. I wasn't expecting to actually be up and speak. I'm sorry. I just know that those of us who are animal keepers work in this field because we love animals, but more than just loving animals, we respect them. We've dedicated our lives to taking care of them, learning the best that we can, going out into the field, doing research, contributing what we can to conservation to animals in the wild, using our animals as we can for ambassadorship. helping them live the best lives that we can. Billy has the best life that he can possibly have. There's more to taking care of an elephant than just having space, as you've heard already. I just urge you to finish the Pachyderm Forest. Let us continue to be a world leader in zoo care and elephant care and conservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Suarez is our next speaker. Kelly Suarez. And after that is Nancy Simmerly. Good morning.
Hello, City Council. My name is Kelly Suarez. I'm an animal keeper at the LA Zoo. And I just got up here to speak because, please, you guys voted 13-2 before to continue this. The city investigated the whole construction of the zoo for the elephant, and they found we did the updates that they wanted. Let's stop this. Let's stop making Billy wait and just finish this. And for the children of LA, I was a child that went to the zoo, and I learned to respect wildlife, and I made my job to educate other children and adults about what the zoo does. So please, I urge you guys to please keep Billy at the zoo. We're professionals and we're city workers. We respect you, and you should respect us too. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Simmerly. After Ms. Simmerly will be Miguel Sotelo will be next. Miguel Sotelo next. Please.
My name is Nancy Simmerly, and I'd like to address at least one of the numbers that is consistently thrown out by Councilman Cardenas and by the animal rights activists. That is that number 63 elephants have died in North American zoos since the year 2000. That number is thrown out without regard, excuse me please, without regard to what that number actually represents. The life expectancy of an elephant is about 40 years in captivity in a safe sanctuary in Africa or Asia, the same as it is in a zoo in the United States. They say it's 70 years. That is very similar to saying you or I is going to live to be 120. Somebody might, but the average life expectancy remains 40. These elephants, the 63 that died, 21% were 26 to 35, 29% 36 to 45, 24% 46 to 55, 55 and beyond were 2 elephants. So that 77% of those elephants reached almost or past their life expectancy.
Thank you.
And I would like to say, finally, being given at least the time that the celebrities were given, that I have a bachelor's in science from Berkeley in conservation and natural resources.
Thank you, ma'am.
The elephant keepers.
We've been very even with the time. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Our next speaker is Miguel Sotelo. Thank you. After that is Deanna Roca. And after Mr. Sotelo will be Deanna Roca. Good morning.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Miguel Sotelo, and I'd love to say that I'm in Council Girls District. I'm happy that I'm there. I don't really want to say that much, but you guys have all gotten the facts about the zoo. You gotten the, forms, everything you wanted. But what I have never seen in this council is them ask about the same things about a sanctuary. Where are their diaries? Where are their health forms? You never asked about that, but yet you still want to send them to a place that you know nothing about. Yet you do know everything you have about a zoo. So why is that? Why haven't you asked about where their money comes from? How are the elephants doing there? Why has so many elephants died in the past year? You know everything about the zoo. Now it's time that you guys find out what is in the sanctuary and not just send Billy there because you think that's the best thing without knowing all the true facts there. That's all I want to say. Billy has his home here at the zoo. He loves his family, and I would not want that to be taken away. Thank you.
And thank you. Our next speaker is Deanna Roca. After Ms. Roca will be Danila Cremona. Or Danila.
Hi, my name is Deanna Roca. I'm a registered veterinary technician, and I have the privilege and honor of working in the health center at the Los Angeles Zoo. I got into this business because I want to participate in conservation and I'm working my dream job at the zoo. The conservation that I've seen us participate in, the long strides that we've come with the Condor program, we can do the same thing with the Asian elephants if we're given the chance and continue our excellent work. Given all the challenges that wild elephants face, I truly feel that the LA Zoo provides a safe haven for elephants. For as Cynthia Moss has pointed out in the book, Elephants and Ethics, after spending more than 30 years studying elephants in Africa, life for elephants in the wild is frequently replete with anguish, often ended in horrible ways through human action. Whereas in very good captive conditions, elephants might think they are in paradise. Let LA Zoo be that paradise. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Danila Cremona. And after Ms. Cremona, our next speaker after that will be Janica Jones.
Council members, thank you for letting me speak. I am a proud keeper at the Los Angeles Zoo. I feel like I'm being judged by a bunch of people who are hypocrites and anti-zoo, excluding yourselves, I apologize. As for the misuse of money, our animal activist friends could have saved those 20,000 elephants they speak about instead of all the signs, the articles, the disgusting billboards, and the anti-zoo paraphernalia themselves. How can the opposing side even talk about foot care? If our trainers and our animals, or if our animals have a medical problem, our care and our trainers and our professional staff can get their hands on our elephants and take care of the problem. I wish I can say the same for the people at the sanctuaries to have saved those 5 elephants that had died prematurely in the last year. Why couldn't those sanctuaries save those 5 elephants, I ask you? Might I also remind that if this issue had been resolved 2.5 years ago, we might not be talking about the money issues that we need to today. Billy should have been in his home 2.5 years ago. I urge you, keep this top-notch elephant at the top-notch zoo where the top-notch people can take care of this elephant.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Janica Jones. And after Ms. Jones will be Brenda Scott Royce. Our next speaker after that will be Brenda Scott Royce.
Hi, I'm Janica Jones. I'm a zoo gardener. I don't know how much space it takes to make an elephant happy. This is what I know. When I started working at the zoo 10 years ago, I spent my first year trying not to notice what was going on around me. I tried to focus on my job, creating comfortable, interesting habitats for the animals. I still focus on these things, but now I do it with conviction and pride. And whenever I question my convictions as a zoo convert, I remember the young boy who hit me with a barrage of questions one day about my complicity and participation in the horrors of captivity. As he spoke, I was thinking, I have no idea how to have this discussion with a 10-year-old who is obviously convinced that I'm some kind of animal slave trader. Suddenly, before I had to come up with an appropriate response, the boy stopped midstream and looking over my shoulder from the step where he stood, he said, "Wow, look, giraffes," and he was gone. Please let the Los Angeles Zoo continue to improve Billy's home and his life. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Scott Royce. Good morning.
Hi. Hello. We've heard a lot of different tallies of elephant deaths at the zoo, from the 33 that Mr. Cardenas claimed in December to the 14 on the billboards and 17 listed on the Help Billy website. They also list several elephants they accuse the zoo of losing track of over the years. Meanwhile, 12 elephants have died at the 2 sanctuaries in just the last 7 years. Searching archives of the LA Times, Daily News, and others, I found many errors in their list of zoo elephants, including 4 elephants listed twice under different names. For example, Wise Guy was named by a YMCA group, but for most of his life he's been known as Colonel Joe. They list a 1982 death for which they don't even know a name, age, or cause of death. Media reports had 7 elephants at the zoo in 82. All 7 were still alive in 83. But a date with no facts to back it up was used to inflate their total to 15. Most of the so-called lost elephants were easily found through public archives. The arrival and departure of an elephant named Shamron was so well publicized in the national media that to claim the zoo lost track of him is absurd. This is the kind of reckless research that's behind these attacks. Thank you.
Thank you. We have now fulfilled by the motion the, actually we've had an hour and 5 minutes instead of an hour, 30 minutes on both sides and 5 minutes from general comments. For the record, there are 33 cards from folks who spoke from the first group that we did not get to, and another 32 cards from the other side, as well as 12 that were unmarked or for general comments. Our next speaker on the queue from the council is Mr. Zine, and after that will be Mr. Parks. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. To the folks that are here, I appreciate the enthusiasm, the participation. I originally voted no on this because I couldn't see in this day and age how we could afford $42 million when our economy of the city, the state, the national economy is struggling for survival. When I hear about a man who kills himself and his family because he lost his job, it troubles me that we're going to take $42 million. And I care for elephants. I've been to South Africa. I've seen elephants in the wild. I do support the cause of humane treatment of elephants. My position has remained consistent. Mr. Rosendahl joined me in my no vote originally, and I do respect both sides of the fence here, but I'm going to continue my no vote. And I think that as we continue this debate for hours and hours and hours, we may come to the same conclusion. So one of my colleagues wants to call the question. I'm ready to vote on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Parks.
I'd like to ask the CAO to come up because I'd like to go through the finances so that we have a clear idea of what some of the issues are as we're confronted with this issue. And I'd ask as they come up that you hold my time as they respond. Ray, in your report on January 26th, you talk about the issue of GLASA taking on a more extensive role in this financing. And would you explain to us what that means? And when we say no general fund impact, also explain the issue of how it impacts our debt cap.
Okay, what you're referring to is basically the borrowing that we do through our what we call MICLA, or basically our own municipal corporation of Los Angeles. As part of what was really proposed in this project, it's roughly about $14.5 million was going to be borrowed using that as a source of funds for the project. And that would have, over the next 20 years, if we were to go as planned, there would be debt service costs of that, and that would total roughly about $24 million, thereabouts. Now, with GLASA's last proposal, where they have offered the $6 million, it would reduce our portion that we would borrow to $8.5 and then they have offered to pay the debt service cost for that over the next 10 or 20 years, depending on whatever contractual agreement that we come up with.
Okay, so the issue is that if they do not fulfill that requirement, or if we hit the cap on the MICLA, it would have some impact on our general fund.
Actually, we have looked at our cap, and we have factored in a number of potential projects into that, and actually we would not exceed our cap whatsoever.
And we wouldn't exceed it now, but we're talking over the next several years or decades as to how we use this charge.
Through the next 8 years, it would not impact, have a significant impact to our cap whatsoever. We'd be well below our cap.
Okay.
And I can show that chart to you if you...
Okay, I've looked at the chart. The other issue is that we discussed at Budget and Finance the other day that we also have about 80 projects that, due to the reduction or the stoppage of funding from the state of California, that MICLA might end up being a source of revenue for us to complete those 80 projects.
That is correct. As you know, there have been a number of projects that we were expecting reimbursement from the state, and total several, yes.
Okay, and if MICLA was used on all 80 of those projects, how much money would that be?
As far as debt service?
Yeah, or not debt service, but the overall going against the debt cap.
Based on the chart, if we go out, we're looking at roughly in the high year, probably about 15 or so basis points, which is 0.15%. in addition to what I'll define as the baseline.
But is that, on the chart, reflects about $75 million? If we used only Mikola to complete those projects?
That's correct.
Okay. And then what is our debt level or cap?
The cap is 6%, and I should note that if we secure a contractual arrangement with GLAZA, that would be not part of the 6% cap, and actually it would apply to a 7.5% cap. We actually have this additional, per the policy, additional flexibility to 1.5%, as long as we have a secured revenue source behind that.
For the general public, when we talk about Mikola, could you give us an idea what some of the projects in the past we've used Mikola for?
We have used Mikola for a number of municipal projects and improvements. One of the biggest projects is right actually across the street for the police administration building. We've used it to build do reconstruction, rehabilitation for pools. We've used it for city halls and things of that sort.
Did we use Mikola to repair the fire in the park?
I'm sorry?
When we had the recent fire in Griffith Park, what did we use as that source?
No, I think we are trying to identify some of that source of funds, but it would not be Mikola.
I didn't hear you.
It would not be Mikola.
I mean, what we've done over the last couple of years since the fire.
I'm sorry, since the fire?
The fire up in the park. What did we use to fix the fire?
I think we'd have to get back to it, but I believe we used some other sources of fund. I don't think it was Mikola.
Okay. Let me just ask also, when we hear in your report it says that if we would change our project at the zoo, that we'd have to immediately return $5 million to the county?
Yes, the county's indicated through their rec and parks that they would request funding that check within 60 days.
Okay. In looking at the document that we signed as an agreement, it appears that under project termination, that what we agreed to is that if we, as an applicant, if we unilaterally rescinded it, that we'd have the agreement anytime prior to commencement, but that if we wanted to rescind it, modify it, or amend it, it would have to be done by mutual agreement in writing, as opposed to the automatic sending the funds back. Is that an accurate assessment on E1?
Well, actually, we do have county staff that provide some insight. As we understand it, that the city has been sent a letter requesting repayment if we cancel the project within 60 days.
But I mean, our agreement says we have an ability to have a mutual agreement if we alter or discontinue the project or reestablish the project, if that's at least in the agreement.
That's as part of the agreement, but I believe that basically they will require payment. Now, we can go back and negotiate perhaps a new project, but that would be certainly not going to be within that 60 days. That's going to be certainly depending on an alternative.
And that money is only available to the zoo?
Yes.
It was voted on specifically for the usage of the zoo?
I should say it's basically any project that's authorized underneath the ballot, as specified in the ballot.
Okay. And then when we came up with figures in your report that outline what the cost would be if we reconfigured this project, where did we get those costs, and how did we get them if we don't know what project we'd be building?
I'm sorry?
In your report, you reflect that it would cost $30-some-odd million if we rebid the project and built something different. How did we get those figures if we would not know at this time what we intend to build?
I think BOE, in consultation with the zoo, they looked at some alternatives, and BOE put together some estimates.
Colleagues, when we looked at this at Budget and Finance several weeks ago, and I think our proposal in sitting it split this project in that I did not, and I think the committee clearly did not want to continue the expenditures, but thought that there were more alternatives available to look at the existing usage of the land with the elephant, and we've asked for several reports. I still think in looking at the budget as we go forward, it is not an expenditure that I would support, that even with GLAZA coming forward with additional money, we would still be putting money into our debt cap, And at this time, when we're talking about on a daily basis, whether we're closing parks, whether we're talking about whether we can afford ambulances at different at different fire stations, whether we're talking about after-school programs, whether we're saying we're going to actually stop paving streets and fixing sidewalks of somewhere in the neighborhood of $17 to $20 million deficit in our street services account, I do not think that it would be prudent for us to move forward on a expenditure at the zoo. And as our Budget and Finance report stated, it appears that we need to step back, allow these bad times in the sense of financial issues to go forward, and to make a decision at a later time. We know that today the industry of development and contractors and the price of steel and everything has gone down. The next bid certainly could be lower. That's a possibility, but it's not, in my judgment, the appropriate time to make this kind of expenditure when all these other issues, and at least 80 projects that affect each of the 15 districts are on hold from state funding that represent about $75 million that we do not have if we're going to complete those projects. Also, I'd just like to ask the President, when we waive this item from Budget and Finance, either I misinterpreted the information or something. We were advised that it would have no impact on the general fund. After we read the report, we found out that there is still this $7 or $8 million issue of going into the debt service. We would like to, if this motion passes, have the ability to look at all of our MICLA and these 80 projects that are currently confronting us to see where all of these fit before we deal with them incrementally, because we did not have that ability to deal with on Monday. And so that would be a motion I'd have, that we'd have to have the ability to look at all of our MICLA, all of the projects that are being held back, all the projects we're not getting state funding for before we move forward on it.
Is there a second to that? Yes. Okay. Ms. Perry seconds that. Mr. Cardenas is our next speaker.
Thank you very much. I'd love to speak to the public and clarify a lot of misnomers that were given about this, but let me just speak to the matters at hand, because we only get 3 minutes at a time to speak. Members of the council, you're going to have this on your desk, and which the first thing has to do with the Time Magazine article that basically covers relevant issues and also reveals a study that when it comes to elephants and zoos, their health suffers and median life plummets, and they do not breed. That's a direct quote from this here. I hope you read it. That's a science analysis, not an activist analysis. In addition to that, you have a letter from Bob Barker explaining that the $1.5 million necessary, it actually exceeds the amount necessary for the Paws Sanctuary to be ready, willing, and able to care for Billy should we prevail today and send Billy to the Paws Sanctuary. In addition to that, we have a Dr. Joyce Poole, an elephant scientist, not an activist. She has her doctorate degree when it comes to elephants, and she's been studying them for over 33 years just on elephants. Not on all animals, but just on elephants. Also, what you have with you is a report from David Hancock, who is actually someone who is a world-renowned designer of zoo facilities. He came to the LA Zoo all the way from Australia, spent a week here, and left behind him for our use an analysis which basically explains that that particular exhibit can be utilized for other animals and it can be redesigned very easily. And in addition to that, we have Dr. Hancock, by the way, the former president of the AZA and director of Zoo Atlanta, said that Dr. Hancock is the most innovative zoo director in the world. So he knows his stuff, and he specifically knows exhibits, and he came to see ours, and he looked at Billy. Now, with that, I would like to introduce a substitute motion that basically explains again and outlines some of the issues we've covered over the various times this council has actually had this issue. But one new thing I'd like to point out, in that Times article and Science Magazine, the lifespan of elephants plummets dramatically, and they stop breeding when confined in zoos. Despite zoos spending over $500 million around the world to improve or upgrade these enclosures, there is no evidence that suggests an improvement in captive elephants' health. So the substance of the motion is this. I therefore move that the Department of Public Works and Public Works Board stop all appropriations and not approve any new or extensions to any contracts related to the current pachyderm forest exhibit and begin the process of redesigning and building an exhibit at the subject site to accommodate other zoo animals, including other pachyderms, excluding elephants. The new multi-species pachyderm forest will include animals like giraffes, zebras, gazelles, and other pachyderms like rhinos, except for elephants. This is a motion that actually, that portion addresses the balance between the issue of jobs and an appropriate pachyderm forest exhibit that won't be obsolete the moment it's built. The second and last portion of this is I further move that the city prohibit elephant exhibits at the Los Angeles Zoo. I further move that Billy, the remaining elephant at the Los Angeles Zoo, be transferred to the Performing Animal Welfare Sanctuary, and it's already clear that it's at no cost to the city of Los Angeles or our zoo.
Okay. Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple of questions, and I usually agree with my budget chair. I don't today on this issue because there, as I've said before, there are three separate issues. There is Billy the elephant and what we do with Billy the elephant. There is building this actual structure in place for the elephants and the future of our Los Angeles Zoo. And I'm going to focus solely on the financial because that seems to be the biggest issue. Now, one question I just want to remind people is the MICLA, the $14 million, that was not originally part of the proposed project initially, correct?
Correct.
Correct. We added that $14 million, this body took a vote, so that we could expand the proposal, so that it would go to 3.8 acres.
Yard acres.
Yard acres, okay. So prior to that, Glaza and the zoo had said, we will pay for it, non-MICLA monies, we'll just do it. And then we said, no, we want it larger, because we think it's very important to do that. So we added another acre, as I believe, around to do that. The other question is, Mr. Serrano, is the $1.2 million that is the debt that we have to pay each year for the MICLA, that is compared to the $5 million we have to send back in 60 days. Is that correct?
Basically, yes.
And hold my time.
If the county instructs us and say we need to repay, then we would need to cut a check from the general fund of approximately $5 million for the cost that we have spent to date.
And when is the $1.2 million due for the MICLA?
That would, by the project completion, probably 2010-11.
Okay. So the difference between this year and our very tight $400 million deficit, we would currently, as told by us, and I've talked to the CA over there, pay the $5 million back within 60 days, which is this fiscal year.
Yes.
We would not have to pay the $1.2 million until 2010.
11, yeah.
In addition, Glaza has indicated that they will pay that debt service, correct?
That's correct.
They will pay that debt service. So the impact to the general fund for this year and ongoing would be zero if we went forward for the MICLA.
For the construction portion of it, yes. For the construction project.
For the construction project, which is really what was before us today. The other issue is how much have we spent on this already?
We have spent about $12 million.
$12 million.
That's correct, yep.
Of the bond, and I think as you listed in here, that if now there was someone who suggested that Glaza could get out of the agreement, as part of this document, I understand there will be there's a draft agreement already that they will finalize that puts them responsible for this.
That's correct. There's a term sheet, and that will be turned into a formal contract to be signed by both the city and Glaza.
Both the city and Glaza. And have there been any dollar figures as to the sanctuary, where that would be, how much that would cost, and what the cost would be to the city of Los Angeles?
I think the initial proposal that we had received back in 2005 was roughly about $2 million, plus whatever that would be for construction costs there at PAWS, and then whatever the transportation costs would be. And I think that's, the zoo has indicated about $18,000.
And that would similarly have to be approved by the county if they wanted to use, that wasn't in the original bond, correct?
No.
It was
No,
not.
the $2 million would come from the general fund, though I understand there is a donation that's been offered. The bond proceeds could not pay for any construction at PAWS.
Okay. And so in the MICLA, as we talk about the MICLA period of time, you mentioned we have a 6% or a 7.5% debt ratio that we are able to do. And I did not hear the answer to the question Mr. Parks asked, which is where we are in that debt.
Right now, we are estimating that for 2010, we'd roughly about a little over 5%, about 5.13%.
5.13%. And what percentage of those projects have actually, I know this, you may not know the answer to this, but give me a general thing, of those projects have started to be built?
Actually, I would say all of these have been started, and probably most have been completed, because this is what's in the chart is basically our long-term debt. It's not factored in anything from our commercial paper program. This is actually the long-term debt that we have spent for construction projects and other things of that sort.
So that are currently. But if you, I mean, I have a senior center in my district, and I know different people have different MICLA proposed funding. Is that considered in that chart as well?
It actually, for your particular project, it is part of this chart.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm saying is there are a lot of projects that are in there that haven't necessarily started construction. They may have had design, they may have had other things, but it's not as though we have these other projects that are suddenly coming in. Is that correct?
Yes, and what I should note on this chart is basically we are factoring in whatever cash flows that we would have over the next 5, actually 8 years, based on the timing of the projects and when projects would be completed and so forth.
Okay. So from your perspective, and I will close in just a minute, Mr. Garcetti, from your perspective, from a financial standpoint in the city of Los Angeles, your report states that we should move ahead with this project.
Yes, that's correct.
From a financial standpoint.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make that point because it is important as a vice chair of the budget committee and someone who is looking at all the issues. I'm concerned about $5 million that we would have to return. And we do not have anyone who will pay that $5 million to the general fund. We do have GLAZA who's indicated the 1.2. And just in closing, and I support, this is a tough issue for people and everyone has their personal opinions and that does not diminish anyone's personal opinion. But my perspective has been we made a decision 2 years ago. We wanted to have an exhibit for our elephants. We wanted it to be the largest, the biggest, the most up-to-date that we could, and to continue that species. And we wanted to provide to the children of Los Angeles an opportunity to learn about preserving and learn about animals and do it in a humane way. We've made that choice. This is the right choice. And so there are people who philosophically don't believe in zoos, and I can't argue with them because that's their personal opinion. But from my personal opinion, and being a frequent visitor to the zoo over the years I have lived here and grown up here, and my son goes there, and the people I see there, I think it is important from a fiscal and financial standpoint, and for a number of other reasons for the people who have contributed to move forward with the animal exhibit at the zoo.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm happy that I'm following Ms. Gruhl on this because we're both members of the Budget and Finance Committee. And for the record, and I want people to know, when it comes to budget and finance, Mr. Parks and I don't know that in the 6 years we've disagreed on hardly a thing. When it comes to being a cheapskate, you're a cheapskate, I'm a cheapskate. We're good in the Budget and Finance Committee. That being said...
Just a point of correction, I think Mr. Zine is the true cheapskate around here.
That's... Thank you. To that point, though, today I have to disagree with you, Mr. Parks, and in a world that is highly charged, highly emotional, all of you out there feel very passionate about what you said, and I enjoyed so many of your speeches because of true love and passion. It's just you differ on how we approach the problem and how we get to the solution. To that point, nothing has changed in 2 years in the argument over emotion. Nothing has changed. What has changed is the economics of the situation. What has changed is where we are today because we've already gone down the path of building the facility. And to that point, Mr. Parks, You say that is your concern. Ms. Gruhl brought up some very good points, and I just want to get this one point across. Mr. Serrano, if we stop construction today, we give back $5 million to the county, and we avoid any further MICLA cost. What is the annualized cost of MICLA, and when does that begin?
If you stop the project and you do not...
No, if we continue the project.
If we continue the project...
Begins in 2010.
The project would be completed about September 2010. The permanent financing for the $14.5 million would be issued at that point. We would then start to make debt service payments.
Yeah. So that's a year away from today.
About a year away.
And that amount is
$1.2 million over 20 years.
So today's... Ms. Serrano,
If I may say, basically the 14 would come down for Glaz's $6 million to 8. So it would actually, for that $8.5 million, our debt service would actually even be less than that.
Okay. So the impact to the 09-10 budget, which we begin to take up in 2 months, is $5 million lost today versus later in the 09-10 budget, the beginning of payments of $1.2 million. So the avoided cost is $3.8 million if we continue to do the work in today's budget. So while we are concerned, and we're looking at layoffs, while we're concerned about not having money to complete projects and do other things we do as a city, like field employees to fix things, we lose $3.8 million out of today's budget versus going forward, which extends out the debt for a long time. So if you're concerned, Mr. Parks, about the budget constraints, which we all are, the propitious way to go forward is to continue what we've already begun. And that is the cheaper way to proceed. And so... So once again, the emotional issue has not changed. That landscape remains the same. And I treasure and honor all of your opinions. What has changed is the economic footprint. And that has changed to the point where it costs us more money to stop than proceed. Forgetting the emotion, it costs us more money to stop than proceed. And in this time, in this economy, jobs are the bottom line. We must continue to do this work. We must continue to do the project we committed to 2 years ago because nothing has changed other than the economy, which has gotten worse. And it's actually in our benefit to proceed. So with that, Mr. President, I remain committed to this project.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Labange.
I move the committee report.
All right, Mr. Labange moves the committee report with a second from Ms. Hahn. Our next speaker is Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, that was pretty compelling. Let me just hear a reaction back again. Is Mr. Smith right when he says it will cost us more to abandon the project than to continue it? I want just a simple yes or no to help me.
Yes.
It will cost more if we stop it.
That's correct.
In this down economy. Please.
If we cancel the project, the county has told us that we need to repay the $5 million. In order to recoup that $5 million, I believe that the city would need to approve a replacement project. The cost of that replacement project, engineering has estimated at $34 million. We don't have sufficient monies to finance a $34 million
Hold my
project
time, would you please?
unless we also approve MICLA or general fund for that.
Okay. You know, I've been talking to some of the great people in the room, and there are a lot of great people. Everybody's a great person in the room because they care. Since you care, I know that's important. I want that same energy on homelessness and people in cars and campers. Please give me that going forward. But on that note, I'd like to just take a point from what Cher said to me. What is the layout of the proposed exhibit? Does it include contiguous, accessible space for the elephants to move around, or will they be segmented into separate areas? I need an expert on that one.
Do you have anybody from
Hold my
Tucson?
time. And is it true that Billy is now showing some problems in his foot? And if we don't get him out of there, he's going to be in more trouble. Both questions for you, Mr. Zooman.
Does that make me an expert? You asked for an expert,
You're the man.
so here I am.
You're the zoo guy.
All right, thank you. In regards to your question about the exhibit, there are 4 yards to the exhibit which can, with gates that can be opened so that animals have constant access to all spaces, or the gates can be closed so that animals that are being introduced or for some reason have to be segregated, that can happen. It provides us the flexibility to do either or.
Either or.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Cardenas is showing me a picture right now, and this is Billy's foot right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're suggesting that this here is the beginnings of the foot issue. True or false? What's the deal?
Well,
hold my time.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to ask our chief veterinarian to respond to that so
Sure.
that you can get that answer.
Please, hold my time.
Dr.
Yep.
Ring? Curtis?
Hi, my name is Dr. Curtis Singh. I'm the Chief Veterinarian for the Los Angeles Zoo. Can I ask before I answer the question, when was this picture taken, and can I see it again, please?
September 11th. December 11th. Going once. All right, December 11th. But you would know.
Can I see the picture again, please?
Yeah, please, show them the picture again. Mr. Bonin, hold it up so everybody can see it. Take it over to him, Michael. Bring it over so he can see it. I just hold the time, hold the time. Every minute is precious on this one.
The animal, Billy is examined on a regular basis by our veterinarians at least twice a year, and his foot care is taken care of by the keepers on a daily basis. This condition that I'm seeing here, it's impossible for me to say exactly what it indicates. I will tell you that elephants do have cracks in their toenails on a somewhat regular basis. I cannot tell you if this is a deep crack or a superficial crack, or if it's going to lead to any other foot problems in the future without getting a look at it.
Look, I don't want Billy to die in the zoo premature. That's what I care about. I care about Billy on that.
I do not either.
What do you mean you don't know?
Medicine is not an exact science, and a lot of people want to say that it's very simple to say we look at it, we can treat it, or we can't treat it, and it's black and white, but it isn't black and white. When I look at a picture like this, it is impossible for me to make a diagnosis of what's going on with this and whether it's going to lead to further problems or not without looking at the animal and looking at that lesion a little closer.
If you look at the elephant tomorrow and you see something, could we ship him to a sanctuary at that point? Could we get Billy out of it if, in fact, Billy's life is in jeopardy?
If his life is in jeopardy, he will be afforded the best medical treatment for that condition as possible.
Again, if we could just, folks, as much as possible, and if the sergeants at arms can assist, please, if we can not have outbursts so we can hear this right now going on. Go ahead, Mr. Rosendahl.
Whether or not we can ship him,
go ahead.
Whether or not we can ship him out immediately, that would not be my call, but that would be made with the decision making with our animal management group and our director.
Okay, hold that point. Now let me ask money question again. This comes from Melia and Aaron. Where will the funding come from for the ongoing operation of costs of keeping elephants at the zoo? Costs such as annual maintenance, medical care, costs for breeding, acquiring additional elephants. Question, what kind of an ongoing cost are we talking about? Hold my time.
Can we address that? Okay. I think we provided to council before, and we provided it to committee again this time, that it's estimated it'll cost about $420,000 per year for 4 elephants. Now that cost...
4 elephants?
For 4 elephants, yes, sir. That cost, though, includes the existing staff that we have and funding that we have for food and medicine, et cetera. So the incremental cost over that would be absorbed in our budget.
Okay, thank you. You're back at the table. Make a quick comment. I know you want to say something about Billy. Go for it.
Billy has superficial
Hold my
cracks.
time. Tell us your name for the record.
My name is Vicki Gurnett. I am one of the elephant handlers at Los Angeles Zoo. I take care of Billy 40 hours a week. I am also a horseshoer, farrier, whatever you folks would like to call it, since I was 18 years old, and proud to tell you, I'm 52, so I have some time and understand what the upkeep of horses, elephants, and so on be. Elephants' toenails are the same thing as a horse's foot. If you looked at the structure, it's the same thing. Horses get cracks, you just take care of them, and you know what? They get cracks everywhere. There are cracks, yes, he has some cracks in his feet. They're superficial. We check him daily. We make sure that he's okay, and we would not have it any other way. And if you're going to pinpoint a crack at us, then you need to pinpoint the cracks at the sanctuary. I can show you at the Paw Sanctuary. Their Asian elephants also have cracks in their feet, and they have one person who does the trimming on their feet. We have 4. So I'm telling you right now, that elephant is in good condition. He has superficial cracks. We take care of him. And if it looks like it's a little horrible thing right now, keep in mind this bull elephant is in must right now. And he is more dangerous to work around, which we still work around him. He's a good boy.
What does must mean?
Must means it's a time of the year when the testosterone and is more in him to take on the big bulls for breeding. It gives him more courage to do so. So one minute he's squeaking and squawking at you, next minute he wants to throw poop at you. Well, that's fine.
How long have you been associated with Billy?
14 years.
Thank you. Mr. President, I'd like to ask a question, if it's not out of order. Melvis people have an expert who can speak about the foot problem. Can we have a counterpoint just to hear it on the record, or would that be inappropriate?
On your time, you have 3 seconds left, Mr. It's not my Hold on, Mr. Labange. Hold on, Mr. Labange, please sit. You have 3 seconds left on your time to ask anybody at the podium whatever you want, but it's on your time.
Would they be able to make their comment then?
As I said, you have 3 seconds left on your time. You can press the button again. I would do this in a dispassionate, neutral way. It's the same rules for this or any other debate. So if you want to, if you want to bring them up, you can do that in the remaining seconds, or press the button again to do it longer. Up to you.
Thank you so much. Go for it.
I have a book here.
Tell us your name for the record.
My name is Jennifer Conrad. I'm a veterinarian. I have a book here called The Elephant's Foot, and it chronicles all the diseases that elephants in captivity get in their feet. Billy's case is not different than any other in here. It's exactly how Gita started and exactly how Tara started, 2 elephants who died at the LA Zoo recently. And the reason that Billy's foot care cannot be taken care of is because he is in rut, which is called must in elephant. And so they cannot even examine his foot to find out what's going on. And the reason he's in rut is because he is fat because he can't exercise.
All right, thank you. And Mr. President, I just want to make one comment. Mr. Zine said that he was consistent. I hate to say it to the folks I love on this side. The fact is that if it's going to cost us more to shut it down, and I have faith in the people at the zoo, I'm switching my vote and leaving Billy there.
All right. Our next speaker, excuse me, if we could have everybody please sit down. We appreciate folks' enthusiasm on both sides, but if you can please sit down and bring order. Thank you. Mr. Cardenas is our next speaker.
Technically, I'm waiting until the vote happens. I'm up.
Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please share with us, have you worked at the LA Zoo before, and have you worked with elephants at the LA Zoo?
Yes, I've worked at the LA Zoo. I worked there for 4 years, and subsequent to that, I worked in Africa and in Asia on multiple projects with elephants.
Okay. And Billy's in must, and when you work with elephants and they're in must like that, Billy at his age in his 20s, very strong guy, overweight as you said, can you work on an elephant's foot realistically when they're in must like he is?
I don't think that anybody would chance it.
Okay. So even if they recognize that, oh, by the way, Billy's been in must the whole time we've been debating this for the last few months, right?
Exactly. He's been in must, and he's abnormally long time in must, and that's because he cannot exercise.
So if somebody wants to get to Billy, and he's in must, very likely they're just going to have to wait. And if there's a problem they really want to get to, then it's just going to persist until they can finally get to him.
Actually, I don't even know if they have been able to get to these problems at all because he's in must.
Yeah, they never said that they actually did, but that's a different. Thank you very much. I need the CAO back up here, and I'd like to ask the county some questions. To the County of Los Angeles, when it comes to the money, weren't you in my office the other day and you admitted that of the approximately $5 million that came from the county bond, that it's obvious that at least $1 million of that is can remain with the city and would not likely be sent back to the county. At least $1 million of that.
Good morning, council members. I'm Russ Guinea, the director of the County Regional Park and Open Space District, and I have with me Ilona Volkman, the administrator of the district. The city has a $12 million grant from the county. Of that, $4.8 million has been expended on the project. That's broken down to $3.6 million for project design and project management and $1.2 million for site preparation and infrastructure repairs. If the city were to terminate the project, they would have to repay that $5 million to the county fund. It would still remain available to the city pending the submission of a new approved project, which would ultimately have to be approved by the board of the Open Space District, which is the County Board of Supervisors. As long as that new proposed project was within the original guidelines set out in the 1996 proposition, which says that the $12 million is for a zoo project under the master plan, whatever monies that have already been expended that could be identified as applicable to the new project could be credited back to the city.
Okay, so it is obviously not automatic that 100% of that county money will go back to the county. At least some portions of, we will have a very defensible case to not have to send all of it back.
That's very possible, yes.
Correct. To the CAO, why in your report did you not put that? You stated very emphatically that the $5 million would have to go back immediately, and then later on a later page you said it would have to go back within 60 days. But you never stated that we had the ability to negotiate that and make our case. My time, please.
I don't think we ever stated that you could not negotiate.
But you didn't say we could or we couldn't. You were silent on that point. And it's a very, very big factor to protect our dollars.
I think we've had prior discussion on the negotiation process. What is...
But, excuse me, you didn't put it in this report that is now before us so we can make an educated decision. Why did you not put it in the report? Why did you not address that fact in the report?
Because I do believe that we will have to pay that money back. Because, number one, it assumes that we are going to come forward with a new project. If we're having this discussion about MICLA and whether we're going to use MICLA for this project or a replacement project or something else, if this comes back to this body, if you decide you're not going to move forward with this project and you're going to get a replacement project, I see that going into the larger mix of whether or not you want to fund some pools or some city halls or what have you. And I believe that project is going to fall back down on the priority list.
Did you put
and we are not going to be able to make a decision quickly enough regarding replacement projects to move forward, and thus we would be required to pay the money back.
Did you state that in your report?
No.
No. To the county, on the Pachyderm Forest project, has that been changed by the city since the very inception of this particular project? Has it been changed at all?
Not to my knowledge.
Yes, it did. You admitted that in my office, that they had gone on with about $2 million worth of expenditures, design, etc., and they did make some changes. And then now what we have is the second version of this Pachyderm Forest. Same name, same everything. My time, please.
Okay, perhaps I didn't understand your question fully. Ilona, do you have some explanation on that?
The grant description is very general, and the last time this question came before this body, $3.2 million had been expended. Since that time, additional charges have accrued to the project, but the project description in essence is still the same as the district received when it approved and the city council approved this project. So while the project is now larger in acreage, that has no bearing on the grant whatsoever.
Thank you. You actually answered that honestly and correctly, and you helped my cause, because my motion here actually that I'd like my colleagues to vote on with me is that we continue the Pachyderm Forest, which means we have explaining to do, but we are not canceling the Pachyderm Forest. It's still a zoo project. It's still for animals, including pachyderms, etc. So technically, it's just like the first time we made changes, and the county didn't call back any of that money, not a penny, and therefore we're still within that realm, and then we would have an opportunity to express that, because there's case precedent on this project that we have made that kind of change in the past. Thank you very much, colleagues. My time has expired, and I hope and pray that we do the right thing, the humane thing, and actually economically the right thing, and go forward with the Pachyderm Forest project that is less money, and as a result, we can possibly even keep it away from the general fund like was promised to the chairman of the Budget Committee before it came before us today.
Thank you. Mr. Weston is our next speaker.
Move the previous question.
Is there any objection to moving the question? For the uninitiated, moving the previous question means motion to end debate. It is not debatable, but it is objectable to. Mr. Parks, you object? Just
had a question to ask.
okay. Just formally, I just need yes or no if anybody objects. Okay, we have object.
Then we should adhere
Correct.
to the procedure.
Mr. Parks objects. So with that, that makes it a 10-item vote because Mr. Parks is still on for the second time. If anybody is speaking for the third time or after, it's an 8-person vote. But because there's still somebody for the second time, it's a 10-person vote. So a vote for yes is to end debate. A vote no is to continue. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote. Okay. Keep it open. This is just to end debate. A yes. Yes is to end debate. No is to continue talking. 10-person vote, period. Okay?
11 ayes, 4 noes.
Okay. That ends debate. We will take the motions in this order. Mr. Cardenas's motion is a substitute motion and thus takes precedence. So we will vote on his, which is 11A, which is before you first. If that passes, then Mr. Parks' motion, I believe, is no longer necessary. If it fails, we will next vote on Mr. Labange's motion to move the committee or the communication from the chair report. If that does pass, then we will take up Mr. Parks' motion, which is predicated on the passage of Mr. Labange. Yes, Mr. Cardenas.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. Point of clarification, I did push my no button and it didn't register.
Okay,
so
we'll
the vote
record
was
that.
not
It would be a 10-5, so it still would have closed debate. We'll make sure that that's recorded. Mr. Zine?
Each matter
Sure.
that we're voting on.
The only one before us right now is the substitute motion. Everybody should have it. 11A before you. Right. The question of first before we vote on the motion itself, we have to question about whether to substitute. So if this passes and people say yes, we want to be able to vote on the substitution, then we would have a second vote on the matter as substituted or changed. Okay, so the first way that we're going to vote would be on whether or not to substitute 11A for a vote. It's not the final vote if it passes. It is the preliminary one to see if there's a second vote. Is that clear? Yes, Mr. Parks, some clarification on that?
Clarification. I was wondering, is it possible, because there's two issues on that motion, that we can deal with them as A and B?
You can move to split the vote. Yes, you can.
Okay. Because I'd like
Well,
to
I don't know if is there A and B on it?
Well, I mean, it's the way it's worded is that one is saying stop the funding and the other is saying go forward on the pachyderm with exclusion of the elephant.
Mr. City Attorney or Madam Clerk, is that a splittable question or not?
First
Okay.
vote would be to substitute, and then that would be up to council
Okay.
if it wishes to.
It can be split, but the first vote is to whether or not to substitute at all. Okay? So before we can split anything, we have to vote on whether we want to take up the substitute motion at all. And that's what this first vote is, whether we take it up. Okay? Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
6 ayes, 9 noes.
Okay? That fails. It is not substituted. We now have next Mr. Labange's motion, which is before us. Mr. Labange moved the communication from the chair that is before us. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 3 noes.
Okay, that passes. Now we have Mr. Parks' motion, which was to absolutely what just passed. Madam Clerk, if you'll please. Okay, let's make sure. Let's take an oral vote on that. Madam Clerk, if you'll please do the vote on that, on the communication from the chair as moved by Mr. Labange.
Mr. Alacon.
Aye from Mr. Alacon.
Cardenas.
No.
Gruhl.
Same thing over. Same.
Han.
Yes.
Weezer.
Yes.
Labange.
Yes.
Parks.
No.
Perry.
No.
Reyes.
Yes.
Rosendahl.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Wesson.
Yes.
Zine.
No.
Garcetti.
Yes. That is if you can tabulate the vote, please.
It's 11 ayes.
11 ayes and 4
noes.
That passes. We now have Mr. Park's motion before us. If you can please read that to your understanding, Ms. Clerk.
And that was requesting a report if if the communication did pass, that there be the CAO report on all the MICLA projects and all the funding.
Okay. Please open the roll. Is anybody voting no? I just want to check because we have all the yeses right now. If not, close the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That piece will be sent to Mr. Parks' committee.
Clerk, to explain what happened.
Sure. Madam Clerk, if you'll inform the public as to what we just passed.
What just was adopted was the communication from the chair of Arts Parks Committee and also Mr. Parks' motion that was requesting a report on all the MICLA projects and that report be referred to Budget and Finance Committee.
In direct English, the project then, with the help of GLASA, will go forward, and the matter now is not before us anymore. We move forward with the project as planned, as voted on the people of Los Angeles. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you all. We next have before us items for closed session. So if we'd like to, under California state law, we now have some legal matters that will be before us, so we will need to actually go into closed session. Again, I want to thank everybody who spent many, many hours of time. So we will be clearing the chambers to go into closed session. Thank you.
There was a wall made of stones. It curved like your hair through rising fields of green grasses. Beyond it, I
Okay, Mr. Cardenas, item 4 you want to reconsider?
Thank you, Mr. President, for reopening this matter, and thank you, colleagues, for allowing it to be reopened. Mr. Tuck had filled out a card, and we want to apologize
Absolutely.
to him. Please, Mr. Tuck.
Hold on 2 seconds. Let's take the vote on reconsideration. If we can just prepare the roll and tabulate the vote. That's now before
11
us.
ayes.
Mr. Tuck, thank you for your patience, and if you'd like to address the council on item number 4. If you can get a little closer to the microphone just so we can hear you. There you go. Thank you.
I would like to know why they did what they did to my property. I don't appreciate it, and I didn't ask for this, and I don't feel I should have to pay for this. There's other properties on the same street as mine that they did not do this to. Mine was a rental. I'm not saying it wasn't. The tenant vacated, and maybe it was vacant for a month or two, but the other 3 properties that are around me have been vacant for over a year and a half, if not longer. They did not put a fence on their place. They did not damage the windows. They did not damage the doors as they did mine and ask me to pay for it. I do not appreciate this, and I did not ask for this. So that's my main beef, complaint, whatever you wish to call it. I don't feel I should have to be responsible for something I did not ask for.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your comments. Any members of the council wish to be heard on this? If not, we will vote on the matter now. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, that item is approved. If we can go to the next order of business. If we have, I think, votes on the closed session items?
Yes, Mr. President. And actually, item number 21, that was continued
Thank you, sir.
for 1 week.
We took the vote on that item.
21 is the Sanabria case, and there was a request to continue that for 1 week
Okay.
to February 4th.
Without objection, we'll continue that 1 week. If we can take up the last case first.
Okay. The first item is item number 22, and that's settlement in the case of Garcia versus Vizcarra et al., and the settlement amount is $125,000.
Okay, let's open the roll on that item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. And the next one, Mr. Alarcon is going to recuse himself. We can take up that item next.
And that's item 20 in the case of Harper versus City and Liddy Ortiz and Buchanan, and the settlement amount is $20,500,000.
Okay, if we can please open the roll on that, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that is approved as well. Next order of business.
Council has motions for posting and referral,
These are posted and referred.
and that clears the desk.
Okay, any announcements, colleagues? If not, okay.
Accident on the 10 freeway today that not only was incredibly congested, but 2 lives were lost. We don't have the details, but I'm told that one of the victims was a resident of the Palisades. More on Friday's meeting.
Thank you very much. Very sorry to hear that. If we could please rise for adjourning motions. I ask everybody in council chambers to please stand for in memory of folks who have passed. I ask first, colleagues, that we adjourn for a great community activist, Virginia May Adams, who lived in Elysian Valley, also known as Frogtown, but she was just an amazing, amazing woman who was really the community activist for many years. She passed away on December 20th. At the age of 87, born in 1921 in St. Joseph, Missouri. She was survived by her son Norman and his children Courtney, Mitchell, and Caitlin, daughter Susan, and her favorite pet, Snoopy. Per her wishes, she was cremated at Avalon Funeral Home in Pasadena. Her remains and those of her beloved husband Richard are to be scattered by the family, and both Virginia and Richard will be remembered as twin pillars for their support and their incredible commitment to the Elysian Valley community. I also ask today that we adjourn in memory of Kharzaros Kademian, who was born in the historic city of Zeytun, Turkey in 1907. He passed away on Saturday, January 24, 2009 in his home. He was 101 years old. He was a survivor of the genocide of 1915, and his flight took him across Persia to Lebanon and then Baghdad as he searched for surviving family members after the Armenian genocide. He and his family immigrated to the United States in 1980, where he settled here in Glendale. He was a longtime supporter of the Armenian National Committee and one of the oldest remaining survivors of the Armenian genocide. I do believe that we had him here in council chambers as we commemorated Armenian Genocide Day here in previous years. Although his life was shaped by genocide, he lived a life of faith and dedication. Memorial services will be held Friday, January 30th, 2009 at St. Mary's Armenian Church in Glendale, 10 a.m. And in lieu of flowers, the Kademian family encourages the public to send donations to the Armenian National Committee, Western Region, 104 North Belmont Street in Glendale, 91206, as living testament to one of the great horrors, but also as living testament to one of the great stories of survival. We ask to adjourn today in memory of Chazaros Kademian. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like us to adjourn today in the memory of the family that tragically were all found dead yesterday in Wilmington. 8-year-old Brittany, twin 5-year-olds Jasmine and Jasley, and twin 2-year-old boys Benjamin and Christian, along with their mother Anna and their father Irvin. The investigation is still going on, but it is believed that Irvin, the father, shot his family and himself in clearly a moment of great despair. It was known that he and Anna both lost their jobs as technicians at Kaiser Permanente in West Los Angeles. The 3 school-age children attended Crescent Heights Elementary School, and I was told that they were part of LA's Best program that we have here in Los Angeles. They were a very loved family. The Lupo family were very loved in this community and will be very deeply missed, certainly by their neighbors. This tragedy has struck a chord, certainly within the city, within Wilmington, but really I think all over the country. It has affected a lot of people, and the mayor and I both were giving a message to certainly the neighborhood in Wilmington, but for all Angelenos, that in times of despair and frustration and seemingly hopeless times, we want people to know that there is help available if they only ask. We've been telling people to call 311. Our operators are ready to assist people in connecting them with everything from mental health services to foreclosure assistance to WorkSource numbers. So we really want people to start taking care of each other. We want neighbors to take care of neighbors and know that it's tough times here in this country and certainly in Los Angeles, but this is a tragedy I wish could have been avoided. It certainly will leave deep grief in the Wilmington community and beyond.
Thank you. Ms. Perry?
Mr. President, I'm doing this on behalf of Mr. Parks, and I would like to second this motion to adjourn in memory of Edmund Stanley Butts, M.D., who was born in 1936 in Harlem, New York. He was the son of Edward Sherlock and Ruby Eugenia Phipps Butts of Guyana. From whom he inherited a rich legacy of family character and leadership. He was propelled by his parents' faith in God, and they made enormous sacrifices to ensure that their children were able to enjoy a loving environment and all the good things that life had to offer. Dignity, strength, courage, and faith are all words that characterized Dr. Butts. He was a husband, father, grandfather, brother, uncle, cousin, and loyal friend, and he was known as Ed, a caring and compassionate physician who was highly respected. He, in 1966, he was commissioned as chief of the dialysis program section of the National Center for Chronic Disease Control in Washington, D.C. He has 3 children. He was widely recognized as an expert in the field of nephrology and was honored many times over. He was honored as the founding director of Kaiser's organization's renal dialysis unit at Sunset Center. It was renamed in 2001 as the Edmund S. Butts Center for the Treatment of Kidney Diseases. He retired in 2001, but prior to that he held many, many positions at Kaiser's Sunset, ranging from chief of nephrology all the way to the member of the board of directors of the medical group, program director for quality management, and chair of credentials committee. He was always attentive to the needs of his patients and staff, and was a charter member of the National Diversity Council of Kaiser Permanente in 1991. He was the first physician member of this council and the principal author of the Provider Handbook on Culturally Competent Care, and was inducted into the Kaiser Permanente Diversity Hall of Fame in 2006 for distinguished service. He was one of only 7 individuals honored. He shared his time and talent freely with communities and was a volunteer and participant in many nonprofit organizations such as the Watts Health Foundation, Crenshaw YMCA, NAACP, Kappa Alpha Psi, 100 Black Men, and was deeply involved in the Education Committee and Young Black Scholars Program. Although he is dedicated to his profession, he always found time to relax and enjoy his family and friends. He had quick wit, wry humor, loved to dance, and play golf. He had a Saturday foursome, and his golf trips back east gave him many wonderful memories. He laughed and teased a lot. He had a beautiful voice and was called Bing by some family members. He enjoyed traveling, cruising, especially cruising across many oceans as he explored South America, Europe, and Asia with Diana, his children, family members, and friends. He is survived by his wife, Diana, his loving wife of 45 years, 3 children, Edmund, Melanie, and Kyle, and a host of family and friends.
Thank you very much. And colleagues, if you can just stay put, there was one general comment card that got filed into the elephant cards. If we could take one last general comment. And Caroline Stevenson, thank you for your patience. Proud resident of Tahunga.
Thank you very much. I came here today prompted by the events that happened in Wilmington yesterday, and I'm concerned that the City Council is out of touch with your constituents. I don't think you have any idea how painful it is to lose a home or not be able to find a job, or how hard it is to find a job here. And if speaking to you about our local financial crisis can save even one life, then I'm really glad I came. In October 2008, a Pasadena woman, Wanda Dunn, not one of your constituents, but a human being nonetheless, set her home on fire and killed herself a day before she was to be evicted for foreclosure. In that same month, Karthik Rajaram, a Porter Ranch resident, murdered his family and killed himself due to the impending loss of his home and his fortune. Yesterday, another man who did not know how to cope with the stress of trying to feed and house 5 children without a job went insane and killed his whole family and then himself. The only people he could think of to reach out to with his cry for mercy and help were the people on the TV news. David Lazarus, a reporter with the LA Times, wrote in December that calls to suicide prevention hotlines are up 35% nationwide, and in LA County they are up 60% due to job and home losses. After these horrible murder-suicides happen, I always hear public officials telling the people that there is help out there. I never hear public officials giving any details as to where people can find help or what phone numbers to call or which websites to visit, but you always assure the public that these tragedies don't have to happen, that help is out there somewhere. I've never had to look for help for social services before, but in the past 6 months I've been trying to help my brother find help within the system. He has learning and cognitive disabilities, a serious back deformity, and he's unemployed. I've been trying to get him medical care and disability income. He doesn't qualify for general relief yet. You have to be down to $50 in your bank account to qualify for general relief. Finding help for him has not been easy, and I am college educated, extremely fluent in English, and I know how to research on the internet and understand a lot of legal jargon. Even with all my education and life experience, finding the proper forms and filling them out, then filling out the appeals, has not been an easy process. Quite frankly, as we have looked for help, we always get the strong impression that no one wants to give it to him. Maybe social services are simply sick and tired of helping people. Maybe everyone who works at these institutions is suffering from charity fatigue. But for whatever reason, all this help public officials say is out there is not willingly given or easy to find. Without my skill on the computer, I don't know if I could have found it. I certainly don't think my brother, with his learning disabilities, could have found it on his own. So I'm here today because I have a suggestion for you. If you truly want to prevent more suicides and more mental breakdowns like the one we saw yesterday, all this help the city and county and state have to offer needs to be much easier to find. The city needs to advertise this help in local newspapers. The city needs to establish new websites simply to instruct people how to apply for SDI, food stamps, unemployment insurance, Section 8 housing, and general relief, and how to find medical care. I went to the City Council's website yesterday to see if it had been updated to reflect the foreclosure crisis or the unemployment crisis. It hasn't been. On your website, under the Education, Health, and Safety tab, there are only 2 links. One is for AIDS Coordinator's Office. The other one is for Computerized Information Center for the Disabled. The city has no information whatsoever on suicide prevention on its website, even though calls to the local hotlines are up 60%.
Ma'am, if we can ask you to conclude, and
Okay.
we'll come and speak to you as well. And I know Ms. Hahn wants to say something, and I'll give you a couple suggestions as well, but we very much appreciate the words and your patience as well.
Okay,
We've gone a
my
little bit over.
final suggestion is, in terms of real-world help, it would be great if you could establish help desks in the local police stations or maybe the council offices, where people who are going under financial distress can go and physically talk to financial counselors who can help them with all these forms. Another thing is people who have lost their homes and can't find jobs here. We have one of the highest unemployment rates in the nation. We could help them relocate.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ms. Hahn, want to respond, I know, briefly?
Well, I really want to thank you for coming down, and what you said is absolutely very real and very practical, and you're right, we need to make it a lot easier. But I will tell you, last night at a community meeting in Wilmington with about 200 people, we did give real numbers, and we had real people there. We had crisis response counselors, and I've told everyone they can call my office. And I think every city council member would say they have a help desk in their office. That's really what we're about. And if people want to come into our offices, we may not be the person that can solve the problem, but we can certainly find the resources that we need. Also, as of today, our 311 operators in the city of Los Angeles have been educated and are equipped to take a person's problem, whether it's foreclosure assistance or mental health assistance or whatever, and try to direct them to the right place. So appreciate those comments. I know on my website I'm going to be updating it and putting real numbers for people. We're going to go through some real tough times, but we've got to all do it together, and we've got to all help each other. I appreciate your concern, and you gave us some very good practical reasons, which I think we're all going to implement.
I would just briefly echo that as well. I know on the city's homepage there's been foreclosure help there as one of the first links for over a year and a half for the Operation Hope hotline. So on housing, we'll try to make that more prominent, but it's one of those first 10 links that you see on the city's homepage. And absolutely, I mean, those are precisely the work that we do, but we need to continue to do. And 311 operators can refer not only on suicide prevention, but also on getting help for people on general assistance, getting people. It's tough because some of that is county work, and we can talk about this further, but I know Ms. Perry wants to say something because she does a tremendous amount of work in that way with our constituents as well. Ms. Perry?
Yeah, let's not forget the county's helpline, which is 211. And let me just tell you that 211, and I think Janice and Mr. Garcetti are correct. You know, sometimes we're the first touch point or the first point of contact, but I think all the council offices are very conversant in making sure that constituents and people who have problems get linked up, whether it's the county or the federal government or the state. That's a lot of the work that I do because I represent Skid Row, so I deal a lot with SDI, SSI, AFDC, General Relief, and understand that sometimes we have to go to the state, sometimes we have to go to the county, and actually sometimes we have to call on our Congress people to help, but, and you have to be tenacious about it. But we all are very conversant in that. But don't forget 211 too.
Yep. And we're trying to get proactive in our high schools, like Belmont School. There's a place you can go directly, and it has the county now, the city, and the school district in one place for all that family help. It's just one model in the central city that serves folks if they're listening from the central city. But we absolutely hear that. We'll continue to talk to you about that. But for now, we will adjourn the meeting. If Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Grove.
And thank you very much for your patience in coming in. This meeting of the Los Angeles City Council is adjourned. We will next be in session on Friday. That is the 30th of this month. Thank you.